This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 518 for the week of Monday, May 7th, 2018. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
And my name is Alex.
And before we get into the show, I'd like to welcome all of our very special guests here today. And we start with our most very special guest, translator for One Piece in Weekly Shonen Jump, Stephen Paul's with us. How's it going, Stephen?
I like that. Most very special guest. It's good. It's good.
I'm trying to figure out more superlatives to put in front of your names, because there's never enough. How have things been going, Stephen? I know there's been some controversy. Are we done with the Whole Cake Island arc? Can we say we are?
Yes.
We'll talk more about that in a minute. We also have our editor-in-chief, Kelly. How's it going, Kelly?
Going great, thanks.
And you've been back from Japan for a few weeks now, I think, right?
I have. I'm actually planning my July trip now, so.
Oh my god.
Always thinking about it.
How many does that make it?
Maybe 10 or 11?
Nice.
Total?
I think.
Or for the year so far?
Two. I'm sorry. Two a year.
Okay. We also have our editorial writer, Jill.
Hello, everyone. Joke's on you. I had a dream I went to Japan last night, or I missed my flight because I couldn't take a selfie. So I guess we're all going places, really.
And last but certainly not least, our anime recap host and Anime News Network contributor, we have Sam Leach with us. How's it going, Sam?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little sad that I'm last. You say last but not least, but I don't think you mean it.
Wow.
This really cut to the thick of it. Sam, you're not least. Much like a parent, I can't choose my favorite podcast contributor this week. Anyway.
It's definitely not Tiffany, though.
That's for sure. So before we get into the show, this has been a pretty big chapter, and it came out on Wednesday in Japan, but it just came out today on Monday in the United States. Stephen, do you want to explain a little bit about what's going on?
Well, this was I guess this is after the Golden Week issue, which last chapter came out was issue number 21 and 22, which happens 4 times every year, a combined issue, and now we're at number 23. But I believe it had something to do with the particular dates for Golden Week this year. I'm not positive about this, actually. If only we had Greg here, he might know the exact reason. I believe it was because the days of the week were odd for the holidays that they used to kind of make up Golden Week. They may have been an extra long Golden Week or something like that. So it was a very rare Wednesday release. So it was almost like just a regular weekly break for Japan. Unfortunately, for Viz, I think we just kind of have a blanket policy, like it's always going to come on Monday. We can't possibly fall behind Japanese Jump overall. So this just means that in Japan, they're waiting longer for next week's issue than we are. We just have to wait the 1 week.
Yeah, we get it right
for
away.
next Monday.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's why, it's to the best of my knowledge.
We had a lot of people making comments about that. So I wanted to at least address, why are we doing chapter 903 today and not last week or last Wednesday or whatever it might be. And also we had a lot of people asking, isn't this chapter pivotal to the Whole Cake Island arc? Shouldn't this have been when we did our review of the previous arc? And to that, we all say no, and that makes no sense. I don't know, Stephen, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I personally wouldn't rank it. I think there were some people that were suggesting that it would have changed our opinions.
Yes.
And my problems with it, the things that I was using as the criteria for my final ranking, which was kind of like, it was a great arc, but there were certain things that were drawbacks. Were not, this chapter did not change how I felt about those. And while it is fun to see a lot of the aftermath stuff, I kind of think of this as if you're playing a video game and you're doing a big boss fight and like it's supposed to be real thrilling and you're just barely hanging on, and then at the end you win. This chapter to me was kind of like when you get the level up at the end and you're like, oh, cool, here's some new goodies and some new stuff that I can use for the next adventure. And my problem with the Whole Cake Island arc was that the boss fight itself was lacking a little bit of oomph, so to speak, in this analogy. So this does not change that.
To be fair, the boss fight was with like the boss's underling.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other discussion, which you could listen to on last week's episode, which I highly suggest you listen to if you haven't. We go through Color Walk 8 Wolf, and we also go through our thoughts on the Whole Cake Island arc. And Kelly, we also have some news and interest stories, as always, on the website. Do you want to tell people about that?
Yeah, we are going to be having some up-and-coming figure information. The Mega Hobby Expo for the spring-summer will be happening in about a week or so. And if you've seen any of the release schedule or taken a look on Twitter, you might have seen some of the posts about some of the new Portrait of Pirates figures that I'm happy to say are not bikini or chair related. So we've got about
really outside of the box.
The two fetishes.
Well, I own a lot of this that's on chairs, so I can't judge too hard. But we've got about 4 or 5 coming that are really cool, and there should be some more information on the site post the Mega Hobby Expo in about another week or so.
Cool. And one last but not least item, the Whole Cake Island arc has officially ended, which means our Whole Cake Island arc contest has officially ended. Our winners, and please contact us if you have not. I don't think I've gotten any responses yet. I'll double check as of this recording. But our winners are in this order. So if I don't hear from any of you guys, you each get 2 weeks to respond. So you have one more week. Hadrani is our number 1 winner, so you have until next week. Marcelo Nunez, you have the 2 weeks after that. Nagato Uzumaki, you have the weeks after that. You could contact us as soon as you hear your name, regardless. And the last one, which I have no way to confirm your identity, is with 3 M's. I don't know. But you could contact us, I guess, using the, Disc Us, especially if you're that last person to confirm your identity. The winner of that, I'll go through some of the prizes quickly. You get a free year subscription to Weekly Shonen Jump, One Piece Film Gold on Blu-ray and DVD. I think it's one set. One Piece Season 9 Voyage 1 box set, the One Piece Volume 82, and I think all of the available Whole Cake Island English volumes will be included in that, thanks to Dennis. And there's a lot more. The physical items are only available for those in the United States or Canada, and the digital ones are available where they are typically available. Check that out. If you haven't, please let us know. Again, email us at onepiecepodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch with us. Ed, did you have,
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to add, and since it's been announced, I can talk about it now. Alex and I this weekend recorded an episode of the Conversation Genesis Evangelion podcast with Matt J. from Cartoons 101, and that'll be on his Patreon in 2 or 3 weeks, I think. So we talked about Evangelion episodes 15 and 16, which are 2 of the best of the series, and check it out.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know if that got announced.
The only way to listen to it is to subscribe to his Patreon, so get on that. There's for you Simpsons fans, there's also a really great interview with Bill Oakley that he did. Bill Oakley, of course, of The Simpsons and Mission Hill fame.
That's right.
So check that out if you haven't. We also have our own Patreon at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast, where you could get our entire back catalog, exclusive episodes, and more. And you can check that out at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. So with that out of the way, we have chapter 903 to get to. Sam, what's our anime episode this week?
The anime episode is, hold on here, 835, Run Sanji SOS Germa 66.
Sounds like it's good for Sanji there. Or someone else.
Bad
for Sanji.
He gets good moments.
Anyway, let's get into the show. You guys ready?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
This is the manga recap for chapter 903, Fifth Emperor. No spoilers. No spoilers here. Come on, cover page.
You want to talk about about the statue of Luffy first, or?
Oh, yeah. Let's go to the author comments first, Ed.
Yes, that is, Oda received the Kumamoto Prefecture's Citizens Honor Prize. They're going to erect a statue of Luffy in Kumamoto. I wonder if it'll stretch.
Now, is this going to be a statue of Luffy or Lucy?
Wow.
It says Luffy here. It says Luffy.
It would actually be great if it were the exact statue that would be in Dressrosa. Yeah, that's really cool. Good for Oda and good for One Piece. I think if any manga character deserves a statue, it's Luffy. Now, let's talk about the cover of Shonen Jump. Alex, do you have thoughts on it? I'll start with you.
Yeah, great cover. It's just One Piece. There are no other characters. We finally get our first official in-color look at old guy Nefertari Cobra and much older Princess Vivi, as well as Karu, who has not changed at all. I guess we can safely say that we are in the Reverie arc now.
But also, this confirms one thing of that Karu is like the Mary in that it is a completely different color.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I was gonna say
the anime.
Yeah, he's like Big Bird Yellow in the anime.
Yeah, he's like brownish here.
I mean, I think we already have Karu's color scheme off of the which volume cover is it? The Alabasta Face Off one.
Yeah, it's the one where he's like in the abyss yelling, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that this cover is so decadently One Piece centric that one of these characters isn't even in this chapter.
Yeah.
We don't see Cobra.
Do we see the other two at all?
Yeah. We see Vivi and Karu. Yeah.
And Chacapel and Egrom too.
Yes.
But not Cobra. We don't get like One Piece centric covers and Jump like this with multiple characters very often. So this is really cool to see. I think like some of the very big chapters in One Piece, like the one with Rayleigh and Luffy.
We did one for Film Gold too, with the birth of Zoro. Remember that one?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that more.
Lovely.
All right, let's talk about the cover page of Fifth Emperor, which, by the way, let's just say it here, officially no longer could say Yonko.
You especially can't say that, Zach.
Yeah, which first of all, I can't actually say it. So that's the first problem I have. The second problem I have is, I'm very happy. I mentioned this on Twitter that this officially like debunks one of the, it's so Japanese that we can't really translate it. With Shishi Bukai, the Seven Warlords of the Sea, Nakama, friends, crewmate. What else have we been stricken with?
I'm sure that there are plenty of people out there that they understand that, but it's just they prefer it aesthetically, which is fine. Hey, that's
even if you prefer it aesthetically, now it no longer makes any sense.
Well, not just that, but aesthetically, I think Goku sounds more like a Pixar movie.
Yeah, and I should point out just for accuracy's sake that the that was not the Japanese title was actually like Gobanme no Kode, which would be literally like the fifth emperor. It was not a shortened form. It wasn't Goko or something like that. So just so that's out there.
So we still don't know like if five emperors is now like a thing. Like we don't know how they're going to refer to that in Japanese yet.
No, we don't know.
Interesting.
Well, they put it in the newspaper, so that's all that matters.
What's going on the front page, cover page here, Ed?
Sure, it's the saga of the self-proclaimed Straw Hat Fleet, Volume 33. Olympus, the Yonta Maria fleet does nothing. It sails the seas. I'm sorry.
Oda does nothing.
And
he drew the waves.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. You could see that's the only thing he drew here. And what was it? It's the Santa Maria is the joke here. Right?
Yeah.
Well, there's also Anita Maria. It's down there too. Yeah, it's all a joke.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time we've seen his Jolly Roger, right?
No.
Yeah, because I remember us remarking at some point on the Tama, the Tamago based pun in that in that Jolly Roger.
Yeah, that's all that's going on here, really.
The Jolly Roger hatching from the egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was also, I forgot, there's a Columbus egg or something like that. That's a thing.
Yeah.
In his Columbus thing.
There's the egg on Roger's ship that is a mysterious. That's a real thing. I still can't believe that that's a real thing. It blows my mind to this day. Look it up. Go look it up. Anyway, let's start the chapter. There's really nothing to talk about there. Ed.
Right. Sure. We start middle distance, the 1000 Sunny. Don't throw it away. Don't you dare throw it away. If you do, I'm going to dive to the bottom of the sea to find it. It was in my pocket, so if you don't want it, give it to me instead. And we see
Can any of us tell which characters he's doing?
Doesn't matter. I'm just yelling. Chopper and Luffy are very angry, and Sanji is looking down on them smoking with disdain. He says it must have been Niji's work. He was the only one who actually made contact with us. It's his way of yanking my chain. We find out that Niji is a fan of chain yanking.
I thought that was Yonji's.
Yeah,
Right.
That's literally his power, isn't it?
Yeah. So we get a mini flashback. He says they're gonna blast you to pieces if that's the fast you can go. So he's needling him a little bit, and Sanji replies in the current day, "If I'm gonna get stronger, I won't do it by relying on this thing and the power of science."
Oh man, if Neil deGrasse Tyson was a thing in the One Piece world, Sanji would hear an earful.
Well, we have that here. It says, "Don't be too hasty, Sanji. Science is the power of mankind itself." You can hear the glasses being pushed up the nose.
Oh, I see. So it's Nami deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, you stole my joke! Waiting for it.
But the most important thing here, actually, as Luffy says, if you use that to transform into your raid suit, you might be able to shoot laser beams. Frankie and Sanji replies, "Frankie's the only guy we need on the crew with gimmicks like that." And Nami pops in, "What did I hear? Someone insulting science? My sorcery climate baton is a fusion of atmospheric science and Usopp's craftsmanship." And she sort of lifts it aloft. Yeah. And here comes Zeus. He says, "Oh, I love being inside that baton." Sanji is shocked that Zeus actually tagged along. He chose food over loyalty, which as a cook he really should understand. Yeah. But he has to make something clear to this Cloud. "Let me be clear. I was her servant first." Which he comes back with, quite rightly. "Duh, but I get to live in a baton that never leaves contact with Nami's body." And Nami in the background of this is actually great. Like this whole page, she shows up first in the background to stop Sanji from insulting science, and she does this hold her like wand aloft and go yeah, and then like toodles away with her baton behind her back, whistling a tune as Sanji fights a cloud of evaporated water, as Brooke points out. Although, as if there were, clouds that aren't made of evaporated water. But anyway,
yells at cloud.
That's right. Young man yells at cloud.
Young man yells at cloud.
Nice to have a powerful servant, Nami says. Go to the next one.
We hear Luffy and Chopper. They're still playing around with the canister, and I think this is Luffy saying, "Hey Sanji, I can't get this thing to transform. I don't think it's going to work unless you do it." And Chopper's asking him, "Yeah, do it for us." And Sanji's saying, "Shut up, I'm not in Germa. Don't ever say the names Germa 66 or Vinsmoke in my presence again." This is a man who's about to be very disappointed.
Hear that, Wikia?
Well, so interesting news. The One Piece Wiki, as of this recording, changed back to just regular Sanji, listening to both our pleas and Sanji's pleas. But, when I was reading this...
They didn't listen to us. They just listened to Sanji.
Yeah, I think they listened. Okay.
Well, they could have listened to him a lot earlier. But
yeah, that's right.
If they listened to us, this would have happened a few months ago.
You gonna take a victory lap on this one?
Yes, that's all I'm saying. I want to take a victory lap on this
Too
one.
bad Steve isn't here for this.
Yeah. Sam, go ahead.
Up at the top, I guess playing Lookout, we've got Carrot saying, "Hey, everybody, the newspaper's here." And we got the news coup who's stopping by and now flip-flapping away.
One of Morgan's servants.
Yeah, I suppose. Wow, what a super close up of Luffy. She remarks on the paper. Luffy's asking, "What about Jinbei? Does it say anything about what happened after we left?" It says Luffy and Sanji and Jinbei and Bege attempted to assassinate Big Mom, and here Luffy's the ringleader. And some bounty posters flap out of the news. Do the bounty posters just like hang loose in the papers?
I think they're inserts. Yeah, that's always
they're inserts.
I think that's always how they.
I also
no, you're supposed to hang them up at the post office.
I like how they bridged the space between Carrot being up in the crow's nest and being down on the deck in one panel.
Yeah, yep. She hops down. She's a good jumper.
I think seriously, in the Old West, they probably like came in newspapers like that, and you were supposed to pass them around and say, if you see this guy,
shoot him.
Dead or alive,
right?
Yeah.
I wonder how often bounty posters circulate. Like, are there only new wanted posters that show up in the newspapers?
It seems that there's only these two here. So it makes
remember when they had Dorian Brogy's bounty posters? They seemed really old.
Mm.
Well, yeah. I mean, much like in The Simpsons, where a 40-year-old bounty poster of Homer's mom sticks around at the post office. I mean, there are people who collect or they're still available well after their quote unquote expiration date. It seems.
Do you think Morgan could just choose not to put a bounty poster in the papers? Just be like, oh, we forgot to print that one.
Well, he still seems to be kind of a pawn of the government.
But could he be biased? I think she's asking.
Oh, I think Morgan's is extremely biased. People have been calling him. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So Sanji notices his wanted poster has flopped onto the ground. He's saying, "Wow, my bounty! It's 330 million berries. How much is moss heads?" And Brooke reminds him that it is 320 million. So Sanji's happy about that. In your face, stupid moss head.
Moss head being Zoro, for those who haven't seen Zoro in years, like most of us.
Nami's still not as excited about the numbers as everyone else. But Sanji is now mad about something else that he's noticing on the poster. Zach?
This is 30. What is this? I'm trying to remember how this is $3,300,000, right? If you kind of
it's 3.3 million basically. Right. You hack off the last 2 digits. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It becomes important for later. That's why I'm asking now. Go ahead.
He realizes that in keeping with the theme of there's always at least one thing wrong with Sanji's wanted posters. And this time it's that now his name has been changed to Vince Smoke Sanji. And Brooke, before we even get a follow-up from Sanji, Brooke is noticing an even gloomier aura from over by Luffy. What's the matter, Luffy? And we see Sanji with his butt sticking in the air because he's so sad. Oh, it's only because Germa's infamy. That's the only reason why my bounty went up. And Luffy is noting that his bounty went down, and he's crying about it. He's like, "See, 150 million," and we can see on the edge of the panel, we can see the 150, and we're like, "Aw, Luffy."
The speech bubble is covering up a little space there.
You can also see that he's now Monkey D. Luffy. According to the
oh, Jesus Christ.
I
love it.
How fast will the wiki get on that one?
Come on, wiki. I'm just gonna ask, how many of you guys saw what was coming here?
I did
right
not.
away.
No.
I did because
I felt like there was more to it, but I didn't get the joke. I did not see the joke coming.
Oh, I immediately. I mean, it's Luffy. I don't believe he can read.
Yeah, I thought it was weird, and then I just kept reading the chapter.
Like they gave him a bounty like based on he beat a guy who had 1 billion berry bounty. So I'm just like, this probably isn't. Yeah, something's weird here.
Well, I mean, I immediately am like, oh, that's 1.5 billion right away. I mean, it just seemed so obvious. You could even see the placement of the 1 and the 5 compared to the 330 in Sanji's, which is an interesting note. Not to spoil anyone about the last.
It's because the speech bubble covers up where the comma should be.
Yeah,
Jack, I don't think anybody is reading this chapter for the first time along with this.
What?
That's like watching the commentary for Back to the Future before ever watching Back to the Future.
I mean, we've definitely made this joke at least 50 times. Anyway, Sam, that was you're all set there, right?
Yeah, and they're asking Luffy, did you do something wrong? And then somebody else comments, well, if you did something wrong, the number would go up.
That's great.
And I just got to 500 million too. It's all ruined. What's the harm? A cheaper number means less attention. And I'm assuming that's Nami.
Yeah.
Nami, Luffy is our captain. This is a reflection of our brand. Meanwhile,
what? How do you translate brand?
This sucks. So yeah, on the next page we are moving on to the Ryugu Kingdom. The world at large busies itself for the reverie in Ryugu Kingdom on Fishman Island, and yes, we see in long view the rather infamous arrangement of Fishman Island's environment, and the royal party is all gathered, and they're excited about Jinbei and Luffy. He's finally joined with Luffy's crew, and Neptune is kind of laughing to him. They picked a fight with Big Mom herself, and some of the brothers who you can see they're sitting on the neck of the little kind of palace carriage there. Do you suppose they escaped in the same ship together? Oh, well, they must have. It says Big Mom is furious, so that would suggest that at least that bit of information has not been reflected in the news article that Jinbei was staying behind. And so they're remarking that, oh, well, I guess the Straw Hat crew is going to be responsible for our protection now. And then Shirahoshi barges into the picture. Father, brothers, I will go to the reverie too. I must, or Sir Luffy will call me Wimpy Hoshi again. And then she says, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a trip to the reverie today. And yes, they've been waiting for Shirahoshi. And so, yes, now the Fishman party is headed to the reverie. And we get a little montage scene here along with the longest single sentence in the history of One Piece, which I know because I had to translate this whole thing in a way that worked.
It says it's like a lawyer sentence. It'll just continue on forever.
Mm-hmm. Yes, under subsection B. But even more than the imminent meeting of world leaders, the people of the world buzzed with news of the young pirate Straw Hat Luffy, who dared to confront Big Mom, the Emperor of the Sea, whose supremacy had gone unchallenged for decades. And we see first, I guess this first island is just kind of a generic one, right? I don't see any signifiers that would place this as a place we know.
This was the panel I was looking for Panda Man, but I don't think he's there.
And
that kind of looks like Whoop Slap in the front, but I don't think it is.
Probably not.
No, they would make it more obvious.
And then, of course, we see Crocodile, who is, he's in very opulent surroundings, kind of looking like the crocodile of old.
Yeah, he got his groove back.
Yeah, so who was the actor that Stella banged to get her groove back? Tay Diggs or something like that.
Oh man, I hope so.
Yeah, that's Crocodile. And then the newspaper stated that according to reliable sources, which is apparently Cavendish and Bartolomeo, according to reliable sources, Straw Hat Luffy already had 7 powerful pirate crews under his sway, combining the authority of a captain with over 5,000 followers, the notoriety of a brotherhood with both Ace and the number 2 of the revolutionaries, Sabo, and we also see the Sakura Kingdom party there with Dalton and Kureha and the doctors. The extreme charisma and leadership to assume impromptu command over the formidable trio of the Army of Evil Germa 66, the Pirates of the Sun, and the Fire Tank Pirates. And now we see Vivi and Karoo and Igaram, Pell, Chaka, not Cobra, who is presumably like chilling on a wheelchair in the background. He's too short. And you'll notice, you see this a couple of times, but there is a Dr. Vegapunk on the visible on the newspaper there on the back. We continue the calculated strategic brilliance to execute the destruction of the Queen's castle. And then we see Capone clearly taking issue with this description.
Rightfully so.
On the side of his
Luffy's
neck.
role.
Look at
Yes.
that. Look at the vein.
Yeah,
so
he's furious.
I mean, again, rightfully so. I love these two reporters coming up to Bartolomeo and Cavendish. Or as we used to call him, Bartolomendish. Happy to see those two back together separately.
I just want to know how you give an interview with a rose in your mouth.
Well, he's eating it. It's like having a piece of Pocky in your mouth. You can.
It's like, how does Zoro talk with sword in his mouth?
Oh, I mean, there's
Through
lots
his soul.
Hockey.
through his soul.
Yep.
No, I like his soul. Where
You
are
say
we?
talkie,
Yes.
not hockey.
Hockey Pocky.
Gosh.
Kelly. Or Pocky Hockey. It would be Pocky Hockey.
Hockey, for sure. So not only are allies getting this news, but also enemies. And we see the Marine base and the strength to defeat her officers worth 800 million and 1 billion berries. The result of this incident was clear to all. Straw Hat Luffy was victorious. It was the arrival of the 5th Emperor of the Sea.
Yeah,
That's the name of the chapter.
He's not loving it.
Okay, we literally made a McDonald's joke like 3 weeks ago.
I will make a
Right.
McDonald's joke every time New Marineford appears.
I didn't see it until just now.
This is actually the world's largest franchise McDonald's. That's I didn't know if you know that.
No, it's supposed.
30,000th Big Mac was eaten.
Guys, it's supposed to symbolize capitalism taking over the world. I mean,
You guys, the will of McDLT.
Keep the hot. Keep the
Hot
cool.
side hot and the cool side cool.
That'd be Punk Hazard.
Exactly.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
Everyone look up the McDLT commercial with Jason Alexander
Yep,
singing
Jason
and dancing.
Alexander.
wait, Jason Alexander sings and dances in this.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you
yes.
need to watch this.
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
ever see him in the
Yeah, he-
production of Bye Bye Birdie that he was in?
I really need to watch this.
Who does he play in Bye Bye Birdie?
He plays the main character, the talent guy.
Birdie.
The Dick
No,
Van
not
Dyke character?
Birdie.
Yeah, the Dick Van Dyke.
Al-
Birdie.
Yes, that's right. Albert.
Okay, so big
All right.
reveal, 5th
I don't know
Emperor
how to
of the
segue
Sea.
back, so I'm just going to start reading.
So Sakazuki's eating his burger, and
That's right. Sakazuki's eating his burger, and we've got some ellipses here. Pirates attacked the kingdom of Lulusia's ship en route to the Reverie. The king is fine, but they did abduct Princess Komane?
Yes.
Komane?
Yes. They're all poised.
so
And what was-
is that like the Ayatollah in? Is that pronounced the same way?
I don't think so.
Khomeini was Ayatollah.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
they sounded similar in my head.
Then what was the point of their armed escort? And now we see a ship or two on the sea, and it's the Dressrosa crew. Grandfather, did you read this article about Lucy? Luffy land is sure incredible. No wonder he's our boss. It even mentioned us, but not a word of that once we reach the Holy Land. Understood? Oh yeah, we're pirates, because they forget.
So where's the Tontadas? Don't the Tontadas have a ship? Why are they like bumming on the main?
Well, no, they're
They're-
protecting the princess.
They're
Yeah.
protecting, so they're sneaking on.
They're part of the guard.
Yeah. And then we pan out to a submarine with a very messed up mouth going, yep, bingo, the royal ships of Dressrosa and Provence. And no naval escort. I see Princess Viola. She's every bit the looker they say she is. What kind of hostage ransom do you think we'll get once we take her prisoner? And we pan out to this group of pirates here that have Princess Komane. And she is basically screaming, well, just call Papa already. He'll give you all the money you want. Yeah, this is why I love royalty. But you got to wait a bit. We're greedy. We want more.
But
They've got to have money.
oh my
Yeah.
god.
Did you guys notice my joke about Princess Viola?
No.
The looker.
Yeah.
Got eagle eyes.
Yeah.
I was gonna actually mention, shouldn't she see this danger coming from a mile away with
Yeah,
her power?
that's true.
She's off guard. She's not paying attention. I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that about. Okay, whatever, Steven.
No, surely she knew the entrance of this mysterious figure on the next page. But we see the submarine, which is apparently a frog submarine, which is actually pretty cool. And it shoots, I guess this would be intended to be a tadpole torpedo then. But they're sinking them. It's an indefensible torpedo attack, and these guys, especially the one on the bottom, is like he's experiencing rapture here.
He looks like one of the pleasures from Kaido's crew.
Yeah. He's really too excited about this, and all of a sudden, we see a splash as something has apparently jumped into the water, and on the middle panel, we see this, it's hard to make out, but there is a figure who is speeding down at a diagonal angle through the kind of the twisting course of the torpedo. And the figure, it's hard to tell who it is. It looks like goggles, but he's clearly got a mouthful of breath, cheeks full of air there. And now we see it is a naval officer because he's got the coat on. Which doesn't seem like an easy way to swim, but, hey, whatever works. And on the other side of the page, the figure suddenly just kind of explodes straight for the course of the torpedo. And he grabs it with a muscled arm and just kind of cracks it with the pressure of his fingers, and then hurtles it upward towards the surface, where it then explodes right outside of the water, and it rocks the ships that are nearby. And then we see Elisabello and King Riku, and they're rushing to the side. What was that enemy attack? What? Prepare the cannons. And then this figure who has just gotten rid of the torpedo leaps out of the water and says, "Not necessary. Have no fear."
All right, have no fear. All Might is here. It's your boy Kobe, hopping out of the water right onto their ship, saying he's glad he made it in time. They're all safe. Is anyone hurt? And they're just like, where did you come from? I mean, it's clearly the water, guys. He's all wet. Come on, stick with it.
Was he a captain the last time we saw him?
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a captain.
Mm-hmm.
He was? Okay.
Or he was. When was the last time we saw him? Because
that's the thing.
Was it Film Z?
Was that Film Z was the last time we saw him, and I think that's the only time we've really seen him post time skip. I guess he was in a filler arc or something, or a TV special.
He was in the special, right? Or they referred to him in the special.
No, yeah, I think he does show up in a TV special, yeah. But this is our first time that we see him in the manga, I believe.
Yeah, it was the Furs Island was destroyed by Zed. Kobe appeared on a marine battleship along with Helmeppo and Garp. Yeah, this happened during, just briefly.
Okay,
so it's all filler.
Yeah. Okay. He says his ship's in the distance. You must be tired from your long journey. There was pirates under the surface that were attacking with a torpedo. They're like, oh, glad it missed. Yeah, that's obvious. Tagobi's like, me too, glad it missed. I was like going over Helmeppo. And then we get another look at Helmeppo, who is now a lieutenant commander.
Says, Data.
No, I think that's Geordi. Isn't Geordi lieutenant commander? Or was it Data? Maybe it was Data.
I think Geordi was just a lieutenant, wasn't he?
He was the engineer.
No, lieutenant commander was Worf, right?
Yes.
But they get promotions at some point. Yeah. It Dax on DS9, so that's what's important. Anyway, keep going.
And Helmeppo reports that the pirates are under control. Princess Komane is safe. And then Riku's like, a submarine, pirates these days are not to be trifled with, because we've never seen a pirate with a submarine before, ever. Not even under Dressrosa. Or actually, I guess he didn't have a submarine there, but still. And Helmeppo is complaining about Kobe's color of observation hockey being so good that he was able to sense it before him because he never even sensed a thing. And meanwhile, he's just laughing. And Princess Komane has found her fire and has decided to skewer them alive and set them all on fire. They'll pay for this. And the Marines are actually having to hold her back from apparently murdering these pirates.
Maiming them with her stilettos. Look at that. There's blood coming off of her shoes.
that's
Dellinger in
excellent.
disguise.
They're like, oh, you must be the famous Captain Kobe, the hero who saved civilian lives in the Rocky Port incident.
So Rocky Port, that was
Where
how
Law took all those hearts, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Well, we don't know for sure. I mean, that's the natural assumption, but the only time that it has been mentioned was in the Warlord lineup at the start of Dressrosa, where he's described as the mastermind of the Rocky Port incident. But I don't think we've been confirmed that that's actually what he had done.
Oh my God, is the Rocky Port incident going to be like the noodle incident from Calvin and Hobbes, where we're constantly referring to it, but we have no idea what it is?
Or like the title of that Guns N' Roses album, the Spaghetti Incident? ?
Yes. Who's next?
Oh,
Alex.
It's me. Kobe is flustered. Oh, a hero? Please, it's nothing like that. And as he looks at Kiros, he says, "Oh wow, he looks tough." And Kiros responds saying, "Oh, I didn't imagine you to be so young." And Kiros thinks to himself, he seems determined to not take credit for stopping at Torpedo. I like how they have this little exchange and these little thoughts. It's cute.
The unspoken last line of that is, I should set him up with my daughter.
Well, they have the same color hair, so
Right.
Perfect.
it's obvious.
I mean, well, no, that means they're related.
They're related, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
oh no!
My long lost son.
I made a huge mistake. So either he's using his hockey observation really quickly, or he is extremely observant. Either way, Kobe says, "Oh, Luffy," as he remarks on the newspaper that Rebecca is holding. He says, "Oh, I mean, Straw Hat Luffy on the front page," and Rebecca is happy to oblige and lend Kobe the paper to read it. And he, of course, tries to turn it down, but then he's like, "Oh, I don't know." And then we see him put on his glasses for the first time in God knows how long, which is, I think, kind of neat. And he has a little. I didn't notice this before, but Kobe's got a little like sprout, like hair sprout on top of his head.
Yeah. I especially like the detail of the glasses, just because it's like, okay, yeah, he's not super duper 100% cool Kobe. Like, he's still got the nerdy glasses. He's still got bad eyesight, which is great. You know, it's not completely changing who the character is.
Yeah.
And Oda recently started wearing glasses, so I'm sure he could relate.
Every time somebody wears glasses, you're going to mention that, aren't you, Zach?
Yes.
So,
more important than the
Representing
reading,
McDonald's.
Yeah, so that's not the only indicator that he is the same old Kobe. He's crying. I love this panel so much. He's crying as he's reading the paper, and he says, "Oh man, Luffy's just so dang cool. He keeps getting further and further. Every time I read an article about you, I think back to that day." So this is a very nostalgic moment for Kobe, and I kind of love it. Also, if you look on the back of the newspaper, not only do you see the note about Vegapunk, but it has a warning, and it looks to be a picture of Weevil underneath.
Which is weird, since he's one of the warlords. Why would you be warning? It's interesting.
And the top picture, doesn't that kind of look like Drum Island? With the big spire?
It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, it is hard to tell.
Either way, Kobe gets a signal on the transponder snail saying, "Oh, Captain Kobe, what are you doing? Come on back." "Oh, we're nearly at New Marineford, so we'll provide you escort." And Rebecca and the Tontadas are like, "Oh, somebody likes Luffy. Is it you, Kobe?" And Kobe's got this really great face. Kobe's like the king of the faces, the face faults in this chapter. I love it. And he's like, no, he's my enemy. And they're like, "Oh, come on, you can tell us. We'll keep it a secret." Nyar. I love that. I really love when a whole bunch of characters come together and they talk and they're like, "Oh yeah, we were also saved by Luffy," like in some way. So I'm especially looking forward to the Reverie, where a whole crap ton of characters who have met Luffy under different circumstances meet. Meanwhile, wherever Kaido is in this panel, it's Kaido, and he dwarfs this newspaper.
It's this tiny little newspaper.
It's great.
It's like a little Reader's Digest.
No wonder he's squinting.
Yeah.
Reminds me of when Jack was reading the newspaper.
Yeah. These gigantic guys reading the paper. This guy who screwed up my deal. What's he doing in that old hag's place? And we have a really great silhouetted panel of Blackbeard. We still don't see his face. Reading about Luffy in the paper with his crew.
It looks like he has
Pluto.
a more legit beard there too.
Yeah, that could be his beard, and
he's got Pluto in his crew on the back from Pluto.
Oh yes, oh my God, I'm pretty sure that's Avalo Pizarro.
Yeah,
and I guess that's Doc Q on the right, next to Pluto.
So I just want to say I don't get the World Economic paper journal that their headlines are so much bigger than the actual name of the paper. It seems like odd marketing from
when there's only one newspaper in the world, man. Like,
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
As far as we know, though, I mean, we don't.
I mean, there's maybe local newspapers. This is like USA Today. They don't need to put.
USA Today puts their name pretty prominently there.
That's true.
Yeah.
They don't need to though. They're in every fucking hotel as it is.
Yeah, you can't avoid USA Today.
Yeah.
Blackbeard's crew is chilling out on some sort of tropical island, and Blackbeard says, "An emperor! You're not ready for that, Straw Hat." And we go back to the place where we just left.
I was just gonna say though, do you think Kuzan is any of the silhouettes that we see there? I see Shiryu and Van Ogre.
Shiryu, Van Ogre, Pizarro, and Doc Q. That guy on the far left, though, you know what? That might be Kuzan just kind of sitting down.
Yeah, it might be Katarina Devon as well.
Kuzan, as we recall, is not like a member of the Blackbeard Pirates, but he's aligned with them, I think was the line we got. I don't recall exactly what it was, but just don't forget that he's involved in that somehow. Mm-hmm. Anyway, go ahead.
So here we are, back to Whole Cake Island. Remember when we were predicted, oh yeah, we're never coming back here again? Well, guess what, losers? We're back. We're back at Whole Cake Island for just a split second, where Mama is freaking out, saying, "The winner? What? When did I lose?" And one of her
lost because he didn't win.
Yeah. One of her many children says, "Oh, it was him, Mama. He put out this article." And she says, "I'll get you for this, Morgans. I mean, I'll get you for this, Straw Hat."
That was the funniest line of this article.
I am so happy Morgans is safe to live another day. Oh, that was close.
This is my favorite line of the just for laughs of this chapter.
Yeah,
I love that he basically did the Sideshow Bob line.
I'll get you for this, Morgans, but especially Straw Hat.
Straw Hat,
but especially Morgans, but especially. Yeah. So the final panel of this particular page is looks to be on a deserted rocky jetty with a shark swimming around in the background, and that looks to be Shanks saying, "Looks like we'll be meeting again soon."
So do you think this is before we actually Luffy? Let me finish the sentence. Is how he finishes the sentence. So we last saw him at a wedding, right? That was the last.
Yeah. The wedding of Lucky Roo, I believe.
I don't think we got a confirmation as to who the wedding was for or with.
That's my I'd put money on that.
Okay.
Given that like he was the only one in that cover that we didn't see.
So we go back to the Thousand Sunny, and Brook realizes that Luffy's mathematical skills, they're just not good. And
it's not even math skills, it's just looking looking skills.
Too many zeros are hard.
No, look, Luffy has been thwarted by the grammar symbol that has thwarted generation after generation, the comma. And so Brooke says, hang on a second, did you count the digits correctly? Because look, it's 100,000, 1 million, 10 million. Wait, your bounty is not 150 million, Luffy. It's 1.5 billion berries. And we get
he puts a pinky up to his mouth.
Luffy, by the way, his depressed look in the corner there is amazing. I don't know why I love it so much, but it's
like
just,
Saitama.
Yeah,
it is.
It's just like super simple looking Luffy. It's fantastic, and we get a shot of the full bounty poster with all its calligraphy and illegible calligraphy, and then the real fault faces begin as the poster somehow hovers into midair, which is what I assume they're all shocked about here in this panel. And we haven't seen the chopper with the antlers coming off in a while. I like the return of that gag. Everyone's shocked to see that, and even the ship jumps up as a yell comes from them, and it looks like we're heading to the Reverie as Ed, read this last panel, this little last thing here.
The world looks to the Reverie while the crew sails for Wano.
And that's gonna do it for this chapter. So much to discuss as we head into transition chapters are always our favorite here on the podcast, so very excited to be talking about this. There are a lot of details, like little tiny things in this chapter, and I hope we didn't miss any, but I'm sure our fans will point all of them out and piece together, so if we did miss anything, stay tuned for that segment. Let's go around the horn. Thoughts about the chapter. Since I said his name last at the beginning, I think I owe it to Sam to start out. Thoughts on this chapter?
All according to Keikaku.
Oh, God. What does Keikaku mean?
Next.
Sam.
Oh, man. I just head over heels. I got spoiled on this, like, basically immediately.
Wow.
But it's the rare case where actually I did not mind because I was so just excited about the news.
Which aspect did you get spoiled on? Because there's lots of different things to be spoiled on in this chapter, in my opinion.
First, it was the 1.5 billion,
okay.
and then the Fifth Emperor, and it's just like, what?
To be fair, both of those are kind of spoiled on like the first 3 pages, including the cover page there.
Yeah, man. This is like really exciting, you know. Yeah, this is the kind of like, this makes me feel like I'm 15 again, and I'm like getting excited about like bounties and thinking it's super cool that Luffy, you know, because when I was catching up, like 300 million, like that seemed insane. And now we're at 1.5 billion. I love Zeus. I love that Nami has Zeus. I think I'm interested in where this whole thing with Sanji and the canister is going to go. Like, it seems like he's going to have to use that thing at some point.
Yeah. You don't bring up that joke unless it's going to go somewhere eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
it's Occam's canister. I mean,
well, like that's the
not Occam's.
That's kind of the
Chekhov's canister, which is alliterative. I should have
God, you troll.
And I haven't.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't really felt around to see how people feel about that, about the raid suit thing. But like, it is kind of like, it's almost like Sanji didn't get to the point where he really got closure. I think kind of the idea is that you almost don't get closure on stuff like that. Like he spent his whole life. I was reading Zoe recently where he's writing the note for Luffy, saying off to see a girl. He's talking to like Nami and Brook, and he's saying like, he said 2 things in this panel that like I think kind of really summed up his arc in Whole Cake Island, which was, my past wasn't meant to catch up with me, and now this is a thing I've got to do alone. So it's like this one panel that's just like, oh, here are the 2 things that Sanji was wrong about. So it'll be interesting to see how Oda wants to handle like him deciding to use that thing. Obviously, Kobe is great. That like Rebecca teasing Kobe about Luffy is great, and I do wish we got to see a little bit more of Blackbeard here. I think this would have been like a really exciting time to actually kind of get a glimpse of him, but
especially after the revolutionary stuff, which happened at the beginning of this arc, and I completely forgot about until this very moment.
Yeah. And also, we have no idea how Big Mom feels about missing Zeus. Like I feel like we gotta learn that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I like that the part of Big Mom that we got. We didn't really get, we kind of just saw like the whole Cake Island and heard her, and that's it. I think that was the perfect amount of Whole Cake Island for this chapter. Sam, do you have any other thoughts?
I think that mostly does it. I mean, like, obviously, I think we all agree that this is going to be just a great chapter. Really exciting turn.
Yeah.
Like, Fifth Emperor still doesn't feel real,
We'll get there.
I mean, obviously, Blackbeard isn't convinced yet, so maybe that's a thing we're not supposed to be 100% convinced of yet. But I don't know. It's pretty exciting.
Really. I don't know. It's not really a thing until people start interacting with Luffy differently as an emperor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And for those who don't think it's deserving, just remember that Luffy got none of the credit really for Crocodile. So Karma, he deserves a little credit here.
Oh, that's the other thing. Okay, I do have one more thing.
Oh.
I do like this as sort of payoff for what's going on in Whole Cake Island, where like the arc kind of as it stands kind of ended on kind of a low note, or we kind of came away not really feeling like we accomplished much, because the Charlotte family are probably just going to go back to square one now that the Straw Hats are gone, and all they but this really feels like, we won even though we kind of didn't win, which is the reputation boost feels as good as if they actually beat Big Mom, like the newspaper says to me.
Well, I think it's an appropriate scale level of what they actually did do, and when they read out his accomplishments like that, yeah, he led this, he got away, he destroyed the castle, and yeah, I guess there really isn't an expectation that an emperor would defeat another emperor. Yeah, that's not they don't do that, I guess, unless Whitebeard.
I'm also assuming,
yeah,
and I'm also assuming that at 1.5, Luffy still probably feels like the runt of the emperors. If he's if this is the 5 emperors now, Luffy's still kind of the underdog amongst them.
I mean, the thing that really sets him apart from are the other supernovae, the other worlds. What is it? The
Worst generation.
Yeah, the only other one being Blackbeard. Who is
So I'm curious as to their thoughts on this, since most of the other worst generations have become underlings of emperors. So where does this put Luffy in relation to those other worst generation members? I mean, Law, I guess, kind of is an underling of Luffy. I know he wouldn't want to think of himself like that. But Capone as well. And the thing is, Luffy has a lot of reluctant allies. They're kind of allies, but either Luffy doesn't want to think of them as allies, like the Grand Fleet, or the Capone or Law, who they're kind of there's not a lot of mutual you're my.
They stay in arm's reach.
At arm's length. Okay, so Jill, what did you think?
Oh man. I got spoiled on the 1.5 billion berries thing pretty early on, but surprisingly nothing else. I actually even didn't read the title of the chapter. Somehow I just missed it. So that was great. No, everything about this chapter was so good. Sanji, I'm sure, is going to have to use the canister. I think it's a fine power-up. Zoro can get better swords. Sanji can get a special suit, I guess. Be Mr. Prince. And then Nami having Zeus is so funny because he's just dependent on Big Mom. I don't even know if she realizes he's gone at this point. I don't even know if... I mean, she must, but she never mentioned anything about it. Can she just take it back from that? Or is he going to be used against her again? Or is she just going to... if he's far away from her enough, is she just going to be cut off? I have no idea how that's going to work.
Is Zeus the 9th person?
Shit,
It wasn't Jinbei. It was Zeus, building up to Zeus all along this
we
arc.
switched Jinbei.
He's the crew hostage, but he's a very willing hostage. He's this is cool. I'm into this.
What was the role we were saying on the crew, who swabs the deck, the very lowest
Cabin boy.
That's Zeus. That's
Powder
Zeus.
monkey.
Cabin cloud. That's what he is.
That's it.
Jill, keep going.
Yeah. The fact that Luffy is emperor now is I say he deserves it. I don't know if he's powerful enough to be at that level, but I'm sure he'll get up there. And the fact that he's referred to as an emperor now is going to be amazing, seeing how other people treat him, because that is a completely different level than, oh, this up-and-comer kid that's been on the sea for a couple of years and taking names, but like emperor, my God, that's one of the biggest powers of the world. So that's just going to be great in basic everyday interactions with just jumping on an island. Everyone's going to know who he is.
Yep. I mean, you can't, he's not going to be treated the same way. It's not going to be that, you just don't have that kind of anonymity when you're an emperor.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting because back on Shabati after the time skip, we had all those people trying to join the fake Straw Hats. So I assume we'll probably have crews be trying to butter up to Luffy and trying to be under his command since he's an emperor now.
His tutelage.
They want his protection.
Yeah.
Like Fishman Island.
Any more thoughts, Jill?
And the bounty is great. It's so high, and I can remember still like years ago when I was reading fan fiction, they're like, "Oh, Roger, the billion berry man, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Look at this now! Oh, this is so good! Oh, I'm so excited."
So, in perspective, I was looking this up while we were recording. So that's $15 million ish. I mean, we're being real loose with the facts here. So the highest, at least American bounty that I've been able to find was $25 million. For
Bin Laden?
Bin Laden's number 2. I don't know what Bin Laden's was, but when I look up like lists of top, maybe this is even current. I mean, this is as of 2015, so I don't know how things have changed. But even from that, it goes from 25 to like 10 million, and that's for 6 people like together. So I mean, that's like we're starting to get out of the realm of reality, quote unquote. Like these are astronomically high numbers. $15 million is
the dragons would still be the highest bounty, probably.
Yes, we have learned he's the most wanted person in the world, and at this point, we have to assume 1.5 million is, among the highest, but still probably the lowest of all the emperors, since he is the newest. And there might be other people who are not emperors whose numbers are higher, and the underlings of emperors might have numbers that are higher. Completely reasonable. I would say the captains of Blackbeard might all, like many of them, probably are above 1.5. It depends how much you care about bounties. Remember, bounties also do not equal power. We need to say that over and over and over again on this show, I feel like. Kelly, what are your thoughts on the chapter?
I loved every second of this chapter. I think I smiled the whole time I was reading it. I was really surprised that there was a number 3 raid suit for Sanji, especially considering how the Vinsmokes thought of him. I really would not have thought that they would have bothered to make one or invest any technology in him. So I thought that was a really big surprise. The bounty jokes were hilarious. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him use that to fight with Zoro. I suspect he'll actually like this a lot more when he gets to hold it over Zoro's head. But just knowing that he's got that 5th emperor status, I'm really curious, just to kind of build on what you were saying, Jill, about how people will treat him and maybe how he will start to act as well going forward. I'm wondering if he's going to have to do things a little bit differently, or, especially once Jinbei gets back and he's a little bit more of a voice of reason, how that will sort of play out as he progresses through the rest of the story now. But you mentioned Dragon a little bit earlier, and that's the one person I kind of expected to see in this sort of gallery of past characters. So, I kind of notably noticed that no one from the Revolutionary Army was present looking at a bounty poster. So that just kind of made me very curious once again, what's going on with them. But all in all, it was just so enjoyable to read this chapter. I think I probably read it 5 or 6 times, and every single time I was just so happy. And then the only other thing I would point out that I noticed, it looks like they all have new outfits again on the Straw Hats. So I was kind of checking out the clothes that everyone was wearing, and it looks like it's a new round of clothing for the crew members, at least that are on the
It feels weird to
ship.
see Sanji in black again.
I like it. I was like, go for it. And it looks like Nami's actually wearing a full-size shirt, which is cool.
She's very cute in this whole. She's got a cute, like chibi, a lot of chibi Nami in this chapter.
Yeah,
making cute faces.
Yeah,
she and Nami and Carrot both have like puffy sleeves.
Yeah, I liked it.
This probably isn't. I mean, remember they were fighting all night long,
and getting rained on by syrup.
Yeah, and not just all night long in the previous night, but the night before they were hatching that scheme. So they've been up for like 48 hours. So they probably got some sleep here. In between,
they slept a little bit right
inside
before the wedding.
beige, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I also didn't notice you could even see the damage from Big Mom's attack in some of the panels here.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's true. I have not thought about that since that happened.
Oh wow, I didn't even notice. Yeah,
that's still one of my favorite panels of the Whole Cake Island arc. Her landing on the ship. That's like a memorable moment.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Scary.
Steven.
Wow. Well, I could have sworn at the start of this podcast, Zach, that you said we were done with Whole Cake Island, which is odd because this felt like straight up dessert.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Oh, I'm going.
This is a great fun chapter. Like this is pretty much just 100% fan service chapter. It's a bunch. The one thing that does happen is the presumably the worldwide recognition of Luffy has grown. And everything else of it is just, like, here's these old characters, these ones and these ones and these ones and these ones, and just getting their reactions on stuff. And, especially for longtime fans, like, it's such a treat to see that sort of thing. A lot of great, funny jokes and such. I think the joke with Luffy and his bounty was so well executed. I mean, I know some of you guys said you saw it coming a mile away, but just the way of slipping it in at the front, in the first scene of the chapter, and then having that be the kick, bringing it back around to have that be like the exciting kind of last moment, and to have that play on Luffy not being able to count up, digits is super hilarious and in character. And I don't get all worked up about bounties specifically, but I'm always there for the the characters' reactions and the banter that they have about them. And so that was really fun. I was really I was impressed. It struck me when I was working on the page with the longest sentence in the world, as I was saying, where it was describing how Luffy is represented in this article. And it's interesting because, like, as you read it, you can see the sort of I guess the dramatic irony of, like, this is clearly a very exaggerated. It's an inflated representation of Luffy, because if you think about the things that they're describing and the way that he, his natural charisma drew him to immediately take over control of all these other groups and stuff like that. Like, clearly we've seen what actually happened, and that doesn't really describe it, but in a broader sense it actually does. Like, that it's this kind of almost magical, like, magnetism that Luffy does have in this, his way with fortune and fate to find himself in these situations and to always, come out in some way victorious, or, having achieved some great aim, even if that wasn't necessarily what he set out to do. And so I thought that there was some very interesting juxtaposition there, where it's like it seems fake, but it is also true at the same time. That was great. Let's see, anything else that was really worth noting? I'm not sure how seriously to take the five emperors. The interesting thing, of course, is that the four emperors as a construct are not, the seven warlords are specifically, they are a government program, if you want to call it that. Like, they officially extend their protection from the law.
They send you a bat, tell you you're
yeah. Exactly. And all you have to do is, show up to the quarterly meetings or whatever.
And even then.
Yeah, not even then.
And go to war when they tell you to.
Yeah. And otherwise, it's like you either are or you aren't. And the Four Emperors it's not a club. There are not rules for it. We have heard descriptions that, they're considered the top four because none of them are, big enough to take over the others, or, in other words, like marshaling your forces to attempt to take over one will open you up to attack from the other two, or, stuff like that. And so I feel like, it's interesting, and it depends entirely on how he is seen by others. So it could be something where, like, in future scenes, like, he's not really taken seriously as that, because this is just kind of like a puff piece in the newspaper that's declaring his deeds in the most dramatic way possible. Or it could be, a permanent evolution in how we, view that class of characters. So that'll be really interesting, and I'm not really sure where it's headed yet. But
it's so funny that Luffy's first gigantic accomplishment was taking down Crocodile in Alabasta, and that was covered up. Now this one's getting blown all over the newspaper in varying degrees of accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of it was an accident. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sakazuki can't really do anything about it because that they weren't the ones who took Crocodile in, so to speak, in this case. It was just something that happened outside of their purview.
Alex.
So this chapter sucked. I hated it.
Get out.
No, I just, of course, I smiled the entire time. I've read it so many times. This is an excellent, like, my heart rate throughout the entire chapter just kept beating more and more and more. As I said earlier, I did not see the bounty thing coming. I thought that it was just a weird 150 million. I thought that was just an interesting thing. I'm like, oh, well, why would they walk back his bounty now? That's interesting. Like, I was thinking that there had to be some sort of kooky reason for that. Sanji is going to use that raid suit at some point. It'll be super funny, or maybe he'll figure out that he can cook better with it. I don't know. Who knows? But I think it's kind of nice that his family gave him a wedding present, so to speak. So I love these post-arc chapters so much because, you get all that world building and you get all sorts of fun news. But most importantly, you get to see how everybody around the world is doing. So I loved that. I kind of love how Crocodile is kind of back to being a, like, old Crocodile. He's got a nice, cool quilted chair and some ferns. It's very nice, very tasteful. I think it's super funny that Bartolomeo and Cavendish basically just kind of spread the news that their captain rules to everybody.
Have you heard the good news of Monkey D. Luffy?
Yeah, like, I think a lot of people ended up buying Bartolomeo's decals and stickers and stuff. Man,
doesn't have to force them on people
Those
anymore.
are bootleg stickers.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Kobe coming back was nice. I always like to see our boy rise above everyone else in the ranks. I mentioned earlier, loved him and Rebecca's little moment for the first time ever. I'm just like, I actually was kind of it was nice to see Rebecca and the Dressrosa crew. Blackbeard showing up but not showing up, I think, was very cool. Always foreboding. I always get like my stomach always sinks whenever I see Blackbeard.
And Burks wasn't there either. Was interesting because where we last saw him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably around somewhere. But either way, I don't know. It's always nice to see Blackbeard, but it's kind of interesting when he says, you're not ready to be an emperor quite yet. But yeah, the bounty reveal, I think, was huge. Seeing everybody's reaction to it, I love that in the giant face or the little face vault panel, you can see both of Sanji's eyes, but only one of them is bugging out. I think that's the first time like his hair has kind of just stood straight up, and you could sort of see both of his eyes. Everybody basically kind of said what I wanted to say, and I just wanted to magnify it. Great chapter. I love it. Can't wait to get down to the reverie.
Ed.
Well, I don't have that much to add, but speaking of, it was Zeus, right? Yeah, Zeus. I just love his sort of character, and Sanji. It sort of brings him down back to normal after being all excited over his bounty.
Oh yeah.
Or no, that was actually first. Never mind. I was out of order there, but.
Well, either way.
Yeah, it's but for us to see him acting that way, it just feels like it's back to regular Sanji, and then getting all jealous of you're getting competitive over the bounty. So it feels. It's good to have that Sanji back. Like, for the most part, he's back to normal. Like, there are other things like, he's changed, I guess, in a larger way. But all the little things, I think, are still Sanji. So
it still remains to be seen if he's horny 24/7. But I kind of hope not.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was interesting, just the portrayal of the other princess here. Like, is there anything to the name of the country, Lelouchia, Stephen, or Komane?
No, I'm not really sure what if there's intended to be a joke, like etymological. That's the word I was looking for. A background for that or not. I did a little bit of sleuthing, but it wasn't popping up anything, so I just kind of went with what sounded decent.
Right.
I know that Komane. The first thing that popped into my head is Komanechi, which is I believe that was the gymnast, or was it an ice skater?
Komanichi, the perfect 10 from Romania.
Yeah. That she's very popular in Japan, and there have been like gags, like a comedic, like you do a funny pose and they call it Komanechi, sort of stuff. So that was what popped into my head, and I went with a C instead of a K because I don't know. I often go with C's instead of K's for female characters because it sounds softer when I see it that way. But it was just an aesthetic choice, really.
So
I just wanted to comment on the. I love that the scene of Kobe going after the torpedo. Just the action and the way Oda drew that was A+ for me.
Oh yeah, that was super good. Actually, coming back to the Lelouchia Kingdom for half a sec there, Stephen. That was the what was the Romanji for that? Was it
Dudushia? So RUSHIA.
Okay. All right. Cool. I was looking up stuff in the wiki, and there's the Irishia kingdom from the West Blue. So maybe it's a sister kingdom.
Yeah, that could be, I guess. That doesn't ring a bell to me, but that this is definitely a different word than what you just described. So,
okay, great. Clearing that up.
Yeah, Ed, any other thoughts?
No, I think pretty much everyone has said same things I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more I could add. It was a really fun chapter.
I have to say about the spoiler aspect of it that I guess I wasn't expecting. I mean, this was the kind of thing that this was in the universe of things I expected could happen after this arc, but like the explosion of it felt like after leaks and spoilers came out that this was the thread on everything on the front page of the One Piece Reddit was about spoilers this and spoilers that, and like it was some sort of big surprise. But this was like I was really happy and I was very excited reading this. But I could definitely see this was one of the things I could definitely have seen happening in this chapter.
I mean, look, I'm not a huge bounty person when it comes to this series, so cool, but I think the biggest reveal was the title. That's a big deal.
And that was actually the one thing I was spoiled on. So
I mean, there's like no way, even if you're spoiled on it, what are you spoiling? Just reading the title of the chapter? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it was a big piece of news, but usually,
It is a big piece, but it's almost like a toy animation title. Luffy gets 1.5 billion berry bounty. He becomes fifth emperor.
Emperor arrives.
It'd be nice if they. It'd be funny if they put the next chapter title at the end of the chapter.
Basically,
tease, yeah.
Yeah. That being said, this was a really fun chapter. I think the faces. Especially by the Straw Hats throughout. Luffy, especially his up and down here. A lot of fun. Seeing old characters, always fun. Especially seeing Dr. Correa and Dalton is a lot of fun. Yeah, even
if Oda really wanted to surprise me, he would bring Enru back. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we're still waiting on that. He has to make his way back from the moon.
Do you think Kobe's little hair thing is supposed to look like a seagull?
No, McDonald's.
Yeah, come on. It's possible. Who knows?
I mean, like what? Imagine if he's like the Sengoku one day.
Actually, this
just
is
grew naturally.
Yeah, it just grows naturally out of his head. Yeah, I like did we mention the observation of hockey very much with Kobe? I like that had been hinted at with Steve's character, Dr. Fishbonen. Back in.
Can I just say one thing though?
Yeah.
Sengoku and Kobe wear the same glasses.
Cool.
Do they?
Yeah, the same round circular frames.
They just with their marine issue.
Probably, yeah.
Glasses.
They're like kind of like John Lennon's.
This is going somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know if there's. I mean, I'm really excited. What's coming next? I think this is a really good setup. Actually, I mean, I know a lot happens here, but this is really a setup chapter. I think for next week, especially from what the Oda box at the end hints at, and the Reverie stuff is going to be really interesting. I hope. We've been calling it the Reverie arc. I don't think it's going to last very long. I'm sticking by that prediction, even though my predictions are often wrong. We'll see. I'm really, really interested to see all these characters from all these arcs kind of come together. It's a real fan service in the traditional sense,
Not only that, but man, now they've got a really big topic to talk about.
Very true.
Yeah, and we kind of knew Luffy was going to be a main subject, and now kind of the whole Cake Island arc gets. Steven mentioned this, that much more reason for why it was important, why we went there. It's that it's going to be the topic at the Reverie. We're going to probably be talking a lot more about this chapter in the Piece Together segment, but before we get into that, are you guys ready for some anime recap?
Yes.
Fleet Admiral, Kobe the Jesus.
This is the anime recap for episode 835, Run Sanji, SOS, Jarma 66. I'm your host Sam, and today with me we have, once again, we have our good friend Ed.
Hello.
And joining us today we also have Kelly.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
The title card of this episode begins at 5 minutes and 4 seconds, so we're pushing it a little bit again.
This whole first half of this episode is pushing my patience.
Yeah. Yeah. There we have a little sequence where Sanji is kind of fending off a trio of Big Mom's kids. We have the character we know as Nestort, and Greg was pointing out that a character who's only name dropped in the manga, Das March, is one of these guys. Okay. We have a scene where Caesar and Brule are emerging from the mirror. Brule is crying like, no, don't let them see my face. Don't let them know that I've been helping the enemy.
I know it's you. Come on.
And you got Caesar kind of peeking over the wall to make sure that waiting for his cue. And Big Mom has not screamed yet, so. We see Katakuri warning his family not to get too close to Mom because he recognizes that she's on the verge of screaming and they don't want to be too close when that happens.
I think Perisphero was being overconfident here. Clearly she's she's only in a daze. All of this stuff is happening all at once, but he seems too confident that this will just go on forever.
Yeah, he's Katakuri is squaring off with Bedge, as we saw in the last episode. He seems like he knows that Bedge is about to shoot him. He's like, "Oh, Bedge, you traitor!" And then that's when Bedge shoots.
Yeah, for a very long time,
Yeah.
and then again later on in the episode for another very long time, he shoots him with that chain gun.
There's a lot.
They're buying some time. Yeah, Bedge is like this
whole
big
first
Gatling
half
gun.
of the episode.
The Katakuri gets riddled with bullets, but because he's made of mochi, it goes right through him. And we see like there's even like a moment where he reforms, and we see the bullets kind of push out of his body and fall to the ground.
Well, it's a matched cut because Luffy does the exact same thing later on.
Right.
In the episode.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think it's
Drawn
like
that parallel.
immediately after that.
Yeah.
So one of the new scenes they've added is this little sequence with Brook and Oven, where Luffy is running to Big Mom. Oven's about to stop him, and then he gets frozen by Brook's ice powers. And but obviously Oven has heat powers, so that's not going to go well for Brook.
It does make Brook look pretty badass.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So Katakuri is like doing the Naruto run as like he and Pierre Sparrow kind of like freeze in place. They're kind of talking to each other from a distance in slow motion somehow.
Yeah, like I guess Katakuri is just moving very fast because Parasparrow wasn't actually. He was just sort of standing there.
Oh yeah, I mean Parasparrow is just standing around Judge and the Vinsmokes this whole episode, like, oh, I'm gonna shoot you now. Any second, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And Katakuri's like, just fucking do it.
That's the part about drawing out the Big Mom thing is that you also have to draw this part out.
Yeah.
So obviously Judge is still crying about the things he was crying about last week. Daifuku's genie is catching back up with Sanji and holding him down, and like Sanji looks like he's in trouble. And Reiju is kind of just thinking to herself, thinking about how much she hates being a Vinsmoke, how ashamed of it she is. But when I saw you as a grown man, Sanji, I felt relieved because I noticed that they were still conscious in our family's blood. And she's like ready to let herself die because there's just a pistol right in the back of her head. That brings us to the eye catch of the episode, halfway through.
I seem to remember coming back from the eye catch and there being like no animation or just a static shot for about 15 seconds.
Probably.
Just look. But actually, that's the point where the episode started to pick up again. So my annoyance was tempered by that. But yeah, it's just the panning across the motionless herd of Straw Hats. Yes, I'm looking at it now. But it feels, maybe it doesn't go on for that long, but there's just very little motion going on in a lot of the stuff right after the eye catch.
Yeah. We got Katakuri trying to kick Luffy with his big gooey mochi leg. I like this sequence where like Katakuri is trying to kick him from a distance, and then Pedro swoops in and cuts the mochi in half, and then Jinbei punches through Katakuri's face, but Katakuri is just like going all over the place because it's mochi.
It's actually very cute when Carrot's like cheering them on from the sideline.
Yeah. This is a sequence that really bothered me, where like Katakuri is like chasing Luffy, like his whole body is mochi, so he's like kind of shooting across the ground. And
that looks so weird.
And he like. When he reforms, he like looks like he's just like growing into the size of like a giant, but like we know that he's actually just really tall, so it's kind of a weird thing where I think perspective is gonna. I think Katakuri's size and like trying to get perspective to look nice is going to be a challenge for the animation for quite a while.
Once they get that picture back in front of Big Mom, that's when this episode really starts to pick up.
Yeah. Capone jumps in the way and like starts shooting Katakuri again, and Katakuri just gets the mochi gummed up into his gun. Katakuri goes for Luffy. He's got Luffy down, but like right then he like I guess he like sees the future and he kind of like freezes in place. He's got like this really good like oh shit face. And Luffy's arms have rocketed forward. They're stretching all the way around right in front of Big Mom's face, and she sees it. And like she's having this moment of like, she's like grabbing the pieces. She's like her hands are shaking.
Takes the pieces, like she doesn't even shake. She takes them from Luffy, but she has no idea that it's even Luffy who's giving it.
Right. She's too focused on the picture, and her like hands are shaking, and she's seeing the broken pieces. She's like trying to put them back together. Like, no. And then we finally get the big screen. Everyone's putting in their earplugs. I don't think that we like really saw them putting in the earplugs in the manga, so it's really cute to see like Carrot putting hers like up top on the top of her head because
Right. And a couple of they give the Germa get like their headphones, or a couple get earplugs, but
yeah. So Sanji's flying his way to the table. He's skywalking. Boom, boom, boom.
I love the way that the scream is animated, just knocking everything over.
It looks great.
That was really cool. Like she looks like she's at the center of a hurricane. It's just like there's like force lightning just popping off of her.
Yeah, and the sound design is really, really strong. For this whole sequence where like music dips out, or like it kind of it becomes kind of more ambient and ominous. It's like really brings a lot of atmosphere to it. But we've got Sanji. He flies to the table. He kicks it really hard. The camera follows the cracking candy in like a super dramatic way. This whole sequence looks good up until they get to like what was like the big money shot, like in the manga, that scene of Sanji standing on the table, like looking really serious. Like that's such a cool looking scene in the manga, but like it feels really empty here.
It really did, and this was one of my favorite parts of that whole arc. So I have to admit, I was a bit disappointed in
that shot,
how they executed it.
But yeah, the Straw Hats are plugging the Vinsmokes in there. I think this was another case where like in the manga, it wasn't even really clear who was like handing them the canisters and stuff at all. Like it's just a hand coming from somewhere. But you see all the Straw Hats. You see Nami and Carrot and Chopper. They're putting the earplugs in for them. They're handing them the canisters. Judge has this kind of like what face when he's given the canister for his. So finally, Big Mom falls to her knees mid-scream, scrapes her knee. We see a little blood, just like Capone told us in that story. And she's kind of drifting off. She's thinking to herself, like, "Mother, please listen to me, Mother."
They show like all the important kids like Smoothie, and they do a cool split screen, I think, with Katakuri and Oven, where it's like a jaggedy split screen, which is not something that they usually do.
Yeah, I guess I'm realizing how many kind of adaptation compliments I actually do have for this episode, where we've got again, like in this scene in the manga where we're hearing this dialogue, like, "No one listens to what I have to say, Mother. Where did you go, Mother?" Like it sound like in the manga, like it feels like they must have been words that came from her childhood. And here they've like I think you have freedom to do it either way, but here you have adult mom thinking to herself, "No one listens to what I have to say, Mother." Like that's like a really interesting take.
Yeah. It's like she's remembering words from her childhood.
Yeah,
she's like she feels now. It's not clear.
She's regressing, sort of.
Yeah, and they do the thing with like the clock turning back time with Mother Carmel.
Yes.
And fading to white, and like just the artistic flourish on it's really like the last 30 seconds of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was really upset with how this episode went for like the first half of it, as I was saying. But I really enjoyed this, like the way the scream was done and the way that it sort of messed everything up and how they did that transition into the end. So I was ultimately happy with the end of the episode.
Yeah, and the last shot is we get a hint of Big Mom as a child, but the screen is like blood red. Yes. You see her in the distance alone, and she's crying. And you can tell it's the same actress. You can tell it's still Mami Koyama doing like the baby Lin crying. Man, just like the next episode preview, I'm just like, oh, that's right. There's that part and that part and that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. I don't think it was a particularly strong episode, but it had strong parts.
It did. Yeah.
I guess general thoughts. Anything else you guys have to say?
Yeah, those were my thoughts. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Kelly?
The only thing I would say that I did like better about the Sanji scene was I really liked the part with Chopper putting the earplugs into Reiju's ears. It was cute in the manga. It was even cuter to see that animated. So I actually, because I do like Reiju, so I really liked the two of those.
Yeah, like characters. Friends. I thought this was like it's an episode that I could dislike a lot more than I did. Like it's not the best looking episode. Like last week's episode was better looking. It's a lot of the kind of the same idea where it's like, oh, all these little mini fights are happening around Big Mom with the Straw Hats and the Charlottes, and they're both episodes with like crying Judge and stuff like that. But I found guess I found there were adaptation choices that I was able to still pick up on and appreciate, and it doesn't. I think the kind of approach, like we get the little Brook versus Oven fight, and I'm like, oh, there's so many like little things that they could do to buy time in the big chase coming up. That I feel like just adding new little scenes could actually benefit the story over just adapting it as it is.
Cool.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to say, or are we ready to move on to the next segment?
I'm more excited for next week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
Okay.
This is the Piece Together segment where we take especially your questions, but especially your comments. Let's start with Ed.
Dispiece.
Yeah, we got a few this week. The first one comes from Abdul.
People want to talk about this chapter.
This is a big chapter. These are some big disc pieces. Here we go. Not bad, just long. So here we go. Strap in. First one comes from Abdul, who says, I want to give a shout out to Ed for something he said a few weeks ago because it's something I relate to. I also don't get invested in theory culture that exists on Reddit or YouTube. What he said about trying to understand the artist as well as the art and looking at it through the lens, and how a lot of people don't like to think about the artist when theorizing, like, that was perfect. I owe this as well as discovering the official release to you guys, and since Gyatso and his gals, I think it was Gyatso and his gals, but okay.
Yes, that's right.
I haven't where the hell am I? I haven't missed a single episode. The One Piece podcast has protected me from theorizing circles and continue to review this amazing series with a variety of voices and opinions. It's been invaluable to my One Piece experience week to week. Looking forward to the manga recap for tonight, which you have just heard. I know anything I ask or think of will probably already have been talked about, so I have no questions. I just wanted to hear you guys go through this chapter and discuss the heck out of it. This turned out to be an OPP appreciation post. Thank you so much for all you guys do and the A+ content you give us every week, especially on weeks with no chapter. Keep up the great work. Now, you too could submit your praise to us if you pay money on Patreon. Thank you so much.
I do have something to say though. But I say that and it's not something I've always thought though. But as I've come to know more artists and writers, it's something that it becomes unavoidable, especially when you know a lot of people who write for a living.
Yeah. I mean, look, I like theorizing, but you could get like really sucked into that world too much. It can't be all about that. It could be something like you kind of do, but it can't. If you get too sucked into it and other people's ideas, it's just you're gonna go down a wormhole and be disappointed no matter what, because there's no way all of those theories are true.
Yeah, there's a certain kind of logic that you do get sucked into. A certain way of looking at the world that is often very much at odds with the creative process and the actual, creative tendencies of the artist you're talking about. So it's not even really getting into their thought process as much as kind of imagining your own version of their thought process. And that's not necessarily accurate either. So
I'll say this. I think over theorizing ruined the show Lost for me, because the theories became so much better than how it actually ended up, in my opinion. I mean, like, things kept like getting ramped up in expectations that you're going to be let down no matter what. And I suggest One Piece fans out there, don't put too much stock. Have fun, talk.
Zach,
friends,
I was going to say, I was reminded of something because I got that series collection of The West Wing. I think maybe like senior year Christmas time around then, and you were talking about how like, oh man, when Lost gets done, I'm gonna get something just like that for Lost.
And they came out with something just like that.
Have you even rewatched Lost since it ended?
I've watched some episodes, but I haven't done a full rewatch.
Right,
of Lost.
You haven't watched
I was like, when it ended, I was still kind of on the high, and I'm like, should I get the box set? And I never got the box set, and I'm happy I didn't get the box set. Yeah, I mean, it was a very seminal show for me from 2004 through 2008. But
it was an experience we all lived through.
It certainly was.
Yeah, I think that's literally a lost podcast of ours. It's not on our SoundCloud, is it? You, me, and Greg talking about the end of Lost.
Yeah, I don't know where the hell that thing is. I remember we did it right before NecoCon in 2009.
That's right.
In North Carolina, Virginia.
Yeah, it was
Newport News,
Hampton
Virginia.
Roads area.
Yeah.
Casey's hometown.
Yeah, around where Casey is.
All right, one question done.
Next, question number 2. Morgul says, holy crap, bombshell after bombshell this chapter. Admittedly, when I first saw the title, I thought it was one of Lucy's number jokes, like when he said he'd be the 8th warlord, but I very quickly realized that this was actually serious. Also, it's great to see Kobe and what's his name again? Is perfect. Is this the first time we've seen them post time skip? Has anybody checked their designs here with their appearance in Film Z or Film Z? Also, am I the only one who thinks Sanji is going to have to use this raid suit at some point? I feel like it's another Chekhov's Tamate box. He said it correctly there, Alex. And anyway, I have so much more I could say about this chapter, but I really should get back to work. And I can't wait to hear your guys' thought on the podcast this week. We touched most of these things, I think.
Yeah, actually, that was a good point. That was something that I forgot to bring up was, that the Fifth Emperor thing, it does play into, it wasn't treated that way in this chapter, but it does play into Luffy's inflation jokes about always being one number higher than the other thing. So that is pretty funny when you see it that way.
And it's also funny, we all kind of just assumed that there could only be 4. Why not? Who cares if there's 5 or 6 or 7? I mean, Sam?
Go ahead, Sam.
Oh, on the Sanji topic, I was considering if maybe like what if Frankie could make adjustments to it so it's less Germa themed or something.
Yeah, I mean, I bet Frankie would like to look at it. Yeah, I bet Frankie would love to have a look at that.
Oh yeah, I love that.
One thing I wanted to say about Helmeppo, though, was I thought, and this is probably just nothing, I'm misinterpreting something, but it looked like it was either blood dripping from his knife or his knife had an eye, like it had a devil fruit.
His
Probably
machete?
dripping. Yeah, his kukuri knife was like...
Kukuri, yeah.
Yeah. It was,
blood. It looks like blood.
It probably was just blood, but, it kind of looks like an eye with a long eyelash.
We have one more diss piece. It comes from Straw Hat Pirate 9, who says this chapter was awesome. Luffy pretty much being named the 5th Emperor. I think pretty much doesn't even need to be said.
By Morgans. I mean,
Morgans truly is the best news bird, she says. Seeing everyone's reaction to the big news was great, especially Kobe. I see him and Rebecca being great friends now. And oh my god, Luffy's huge bounty, 1.5 billion. Yeah, Luffy. This was a perfect chapter to enjoy, and right after Luffy's birthday, too, which was on May 5th. So excited for Reverie and Wano. The whole Cake Island arc was worth it for this chapter alone. Guess nothing really else to say about that. So let's move on to emails. First one comes from Ryan. Got a fun one for you today. I hope he is not lying to us. Since the 4Kids dub only went as far as Skypiea, we never get to see 2 certain characters appear. That being said, how would have the 4Kids dub handled Frankie and Brooke if they had appeared? There's a kind of answer online here for one of these.
We've referenced this 3 weeks in a row,
Yeah.
But what about Brooke, though?
Fewer penny jokes.
For those who don't know, there is a YouTube of a fake 4Kids with Frankie fighting Nero out there. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, on the sea train, yeah.
For Brooke.
Brooke would talk like Wordsworth from Heathcliff.
Oh no!
Really, he was that really annoying cat who rapped and had roller skates. And by rap, I mean he would just make really lame lines like "Hey, hey, hey, it's a great day."
What? Maybe like an. I see him more as an old prospector.
An old prospector.
Yeah,
I could see that kind of grizzled.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd probably lean into the afro, being like Disco Stew.
Oh, you think that's how they would lean into it?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Not just make him, like Fred Sanford.
Okay. Should we move on? The next one comes from Matthew, who says, a couple of weeks ago, 2 Fridays ago to be exact, I wanted a little refresher on Whole Cake Island. So I went on the TV Tropes character page for One Piece and looked up the Emperors, wanting a refresher on everything Big Mom's done.
Why would you subject yourself to that website?
Unfortunately, when he went on that website, he got spoiled. And it sucks, he says, that I got spoiled out of the blue for something so momentous. Sure, stay away from non-official sources if you're afraid of spoilers, I get it. But how was I to know the chapter would leak over a week early? This isn't so much a question as me using your guys' platform to ask. Please don't upload spoilers to stuff the second they leak. It damages the experience for those of us following the official release. I understand you want to update fan databases with new information the second it appears, but whatever site you're updating will not collapse if you just wait a few days as a courtesy to the rest of us. Anyway, amazing chapter otherwise. Keep up the great work. This is one of my favorite podcasts. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, I think we all feel the same way here.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate because those sites are centralized. It's like the equivalent, like trying to go to them and not be spoiled about whatever is the latest thing, no matter how recent. It's sort of like logging into Twitter and your timeline is literally every fan who reads One Piece.
You gotta
hoping
mute.
hoping for 0 people to talk about it is just not going to happen.
I went to a con a few years ago, and the scanlation came out that morning of the One Piece gathering. And the gathering coordinator just outright took a megaphone and shouted out the spoiler. And I was like, it has been out for 3 hours on the Scanlation site.
Can I ask what chapter it was? Do you remember?
It was something about Sanji's family being assassins.
Yeah.
It wasn't a huge spoiler, but it was just enough that I was like, really?
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of when like A&N made a headline about Vinsmoke when.
Yeah, that was a bad one too.
Yeah, that was around the same time too. And but the problem is, unfortunately, that kind of stuff will get traffic. I mean, we are definitely against the green in how things are done, and I'm happy the way we do things. We're not going to be changing, but as long as people feed the beast will grow. YouTube channels that report on spoilers or scanlations or get the hits. Articles online that do the same thing get the hits. That's
right. Superhero movies. People pay to see them, and they still get made, and they will still get made. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
sorry, I got on a soapbox for a second.
No, it's fine. I mean, this is our soapbox, isn't it? Straw Hat Docking says, I was wondering, who do you guys think has the most underutilized devil fruits in the series? He or she throws out Viola, Leo, and Pudding as examples. He was disappointed Leo did not help defeat Doflamingo, who had opposite powers, which I think we had mentioned here.
Mm-hmm. I'll agree on that part, yeah.
Yeah. The original culprit is Robin. I think she could do way more interesting things with her power.
Yeah. I think going back that far as well, I think Eneru, if he hadn't come across Luffy, there was like no limit to I think what he could have gotten away with on the ocean. But that's not where he wanted to go, I guess. But
yeah,
Steven, nothing.
It's tough because it's like I think he definitely undercuts a lot of especially as we get further into the series and he has to kind of dig deeper for ideas for fruits, that you get into a lot of like very kind of metaphysical ideas as fruits, and they, if taken to their logical conclusion, could be just completely, alter the face of the story as we know it, and he doesn't want to do that necessarily, and
that's
so
the
he ends up
route.
Yeah, he kind of undercuts a lot of those, a lot of those things, like Pudding's power, for example. So,
actually, Pudding's might be one of the most underutilized, frankly.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing necessarily, though, because hers is kind of hers is overpowered in the way Sugar's was one of the most overutilized, for example. And I think after Dressrosa,
Sugar's was like 3 in 1.
Yeah, that's true too. If like to see Pudding having a major role with her devil fruit after Sugar and Dressrosa, I think I would have been a little disappointed. So I'm actually okay with the underutilization there. I think they used it pretty well, especially at the end, which I'm surprised to say it wasn't the way I would have done it, but yeah. Next one comes from Hatem, who says, "Dear Zach, or another fantastic One Piece podcast host, I hope you are doing well. So we saw both Bartolomeo giving an interview and Shanks in this chapter. Could you speculate as to how the incident with Bartolomeo selling, let me add to this, fake Straw Hat merchandise in Shanks' territory pan out? Although Shanks will most likely erupt in laughing from the situation, burning or removing a pirate flag is not something to be taken lightly even by Luffy. Thoughts and speculations there?" We've kind of talked about this in the past.
I guess I don't really understand the question.
So, how do you think Shanks and or Luffy will react from Bartolomeo burning the flag and, kind of that whole incident with Bartolomeo, I believe, is the question here.
Yeah, there was nothing that would suggest that Shanks was in any way reacting to that in this episode or was, cognizant of that. So maybe that's something we will see more of in the future when we actually get face to face with Shanks again,
or Bartolomeo again,
or Bartolomeo. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? It's like, oh yeah, I took over. I was trying to sell stuff in this town, and these people were like part of Shanks. Who's that guy? I mean, who cares about him? You're the fifth emperor.
Well, Shanks is one of the other four, though.
No, I know.
Yeah, but Luffy's 5.
Yeah.
He's the best one.
One better.
That's right. Higher numbers are always better.
Yes. He also had a trivia segment title suggestion. He thinks it should be called Know This Piece, but it has to be read by the one and only one whose sound gravitas is only rivaled by Gold Roger and Whitebeard. Of course, I'm talking about Ed, just like Peace the Tweet. And it obviously has to be followed by his iconic, yeah. I mean, that's just, you could do something different, I feel like. If Ed is.
I feel like trivia is sexier than Twitter.
I mean.
Have we been writing all these trivia names down?
No, I haven't. I have been a very bad host.
You should sort of say them at the beginning of the segment.
Yeah, I haven't even been keeping score anymore.
Like disposable.
Anyone who suggests a name, it's not going to be the name forever. It'll just be the name for that week.
Yeah. I have been mixing. These next few weeks, as we get into a new arc, I'm going to be mixing up kind of the formats. So as you guys will see this week, also,
all right.
Which it can't do the same thing every week here. Martin has his question comment. I'm happy to admit that Whole Cake Island has been by far my favorite arc since the time skip, and I feel the podcast had a huge role in helping with that. Listening to the podcast every week dissect and analyze the chapters as they come out has re-sparked my passion to the series to the point where I see myself getting excited every week for the anime. Thanks to the team, I have not only subscribed to your Patreon, but also to Crunchyroll and Viz, just to make sure I am supporting with everything that I can. That being said, would it be possible for the podcast to make a collection of all the volume recaps? Those are by far my favorite things to listen to multiple times since they're crammed with great information, even greater commentary. Keep up the great work, and I'm excited to see where we go with the Reverie and Wano. P.S. Love the cabin. I have no idea what that's referring to.
Well, I think we could make a playlist on SoundCloud for that.
Yeah. I could do that pretty easily.
Editing a compilation episode probably isn't going to happen, but
not anytime soon. If Oda ever takes an extended break, I will. I'm thinking this is our 9th year. We're heading into our 10th year. I'm expecting to rerun, quote unquote, the read through like on the feed, probably pretty soon, especially if people out there are like into that. I had someone ask today, if I don't know anything about One Piece, do you have like a way I could listen to, the podcast? And the read through is the answer to that question. So I'm thinking about making that kind of more available, easier.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so you might see that rerun again. The volume recaps, I'll definitely, I don't know when, but I'll put together a playlist. That's not very difficult to do. If someone really wants to give into my laziness, they could just put a list of all the episodes where there's volume recaps, and then I could really easily do it. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? I guess that was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just on a personal, Zach can do whatever with this, but I guess I'm a little iffy on the idea of like keeping around the volumes past, for example, we have our kind of paywall situation where not every season is available, and I do kind of feel like of all the content that we offer, the volume recaps, while they are very fun and I certainly enjoy doing them and going over the information, I also kind of I get a little weirded out just because it's like, okay, this is sort of like the bonus material that you get for buying the volumes, and I don't necessarily want to disincentivize people from going out and doing that. So I don't know, maybe the archival aspect of that is a I feel a little more squicky about, but I do get that.
We could make that a Patreon thing then, so it's not
or something. Yeah.
Because I feel like, and this is probably true, most of the people who support us on Patreon probably buy or subscribe or support the official release in some way. I would think.
I'd like to hope so.
I mean, I would place bets on that. That's gonna do it for emails.
People who are willing to pay us for this, I really hope are willing to pay for.
Yeah,
right.
it's
something. The actual thing.
At least Shonen Jump, yeah. So I'd be, yeah. Anyway, we look like we have a lot of questions this weekend on Reddit, too.
Yeah, we have a good amount on Reddit. So we'll start with Mensel STH. Dragon Ball fans finally got their own convention this weekend. So in light of that, I thought about the possibility of an American One Piece con. If something like that ever happens, what would each podcast member's panel be about? Like Sam's panel will be about the themes of One Piece, or Steven's panel can be about translating Oda's writing style to English. Also, dear God, please let Mayumi Tanaka be there. I need a picture with Mayumi Tanaka.
So Matsuri-Con was kind of the closest we had to a real One Piece convention. I mean, I feel like that's got to be like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
It can't be like an every year thing probably to make it special.
But
Sam, your panel would probably be mostly about Carrot, I would assume. Like, right?
It's not out of the question.
Or Jinbei, or Caesar. Maybe one for each.
List of all the characters he wants to join the crew.
It'll be called like Sam's Crushes or something.
I mean, or he could do, a panel about the anime, because that's kind of... but that was boring compared to all that stuff.
Ed, what would your panel be about?
Oh, I don't know. Zoro, probably?
Ed's a fanboy. Yeah.
Fanboy at heart.
Alex, what would yours be about?
I've sort of fallen off of the BGM thing just because I haven't been watching the anime. So I think, I don't know, I think I'd really like to do a Devil Fruit based panel. That'd be fun.
Kelly?
I think I'd do all of Sanji's recipes.
I thought you were doing merch,
or merch,
yeah,
or both. Just Sanji merch.
So yeah,
another thing I could do, I'd work on the sort of the themes and overall philosophy of different characters in One Piece. That would be interesting.
And mine would be about the moon.
Fishman Island. Why I'm right.
Can I guess?
She just reads off one of her editorials.
So let us know out there which panel you would attend. You have to attend one. That's the catch. Okay, what's next, Stephen?
All right, next is Adam Sandealer, who says, "Hello, creators of the One Piece podcast. I really loved this previous arc. I used to be a big Sanji fan, but he dropped down my list after the time skip. He was nosebleeding all the time and felt like a character of himself, but this last arc brought him back for me. Likewise, I feel like I used to be fonder of the character of Zach Logan. Him and Steve were my two favorite characters on the show when I got into it. So I was listening to older episodes from 2012, and it seemed like Zach had a lot more personality and diverse humor."
Oh, man.
Wow.
Nowadays,
First of all, I've never had a good sense of humor. Please continue.
That's true. Nowadays, it's always the same. I can't pronounce this joke.
I made that joke earlier.
Even though he actually gets it right 3/4 of the time.
That's not true.
I would argue with that one. It's wearing thin as a gag, and otherwise, he's very professional. Sometimes it even feels like he's more like a lawyer than a human being.
Lawyers aren't human beings, guys. I mean...
But I feel he still has a lot to offer when he's more loose and is allowed to go off script more. I still like the actor, though. But I hope there will soon be a year of Zach in the future. Well, Zach, you did win the contest, so this could be the year of Zach.
Well, I do have a wedding this year.
So instead of, that's right. During the wedding, host the podcast. See what happens.
I'm going to get
Zach's reboot.
I'll be chased by someone trying to murder me.
Also, if this is the year of Zach, then that means that's like through 2020 is the year of Zach going by.
To be fair, every year since 2009 has been the year of Zach. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm just not funny anymore, or ever. I've never been funny. I don't know what this person is talking about.
Like he has the rest of us on.
It's literally the reason I have everyone else. I'm also different, with whoever the crew is here, I think. I've also been quieter in general because maybe not on this episode particularly, but I like first off, I have a dog who makes a lot more noise, so I tend to have to mute more often. Second off, I want to let other people speak more. I feel like I used to, in the early days, kind of take over the show a lot.
You were very, I think, afraid of dead time or dead air.
Now I love dead air. I live for dead air. No,
wait, where did this comment come from? Reddit?
Yes. From Adam Sandler.
Why did this Redditor just list off all of Zach's best qualities?
Zach is cool.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I need the self-esteem boost.
All right. Fierce Alchemist says, do you expect Big Mom will go after Fishman Island as revenge against Jinbei and Luffy, fulfilling the prophecy that Luffy will destroy the island?
Well, wouldn't that be Big Mom destroying the island?
Yeah, that's true.
This is the topic where I most feel like that meme of that woman with all like the math in front of her looking around.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly possible. Like, obviously that's still very much at play in terms of like characters who are, we recognize as being active in the story. But the further we get from it, I feel like the further it's more likely that it, like Luffy's returning, destroying the island or something is more tied into like the bring it to zero sort of thematic thing. Right. Like that was what Fukaboshi said, and that seems to fit it more, although that may be a convenient explanation. But
I definitely think it's going to happen. Like I think the island is going to be destroyed. I don't think that Luffy necessarily has to be physically there for it to happen. He just has to be like responsible for it in some way.
Right.
And isn't there like a pretty common theory that like we're gonna use an ancient weapon to like destroy the red line so that all the oceans connect or something?
That's a very popular, I think, big picture theory about what's going to happen.
Yeah, and just the whole like kind of trading hands of like Fishman Island between Big Mom and Luffy and the world government upcoming at the river. Like there's so many different ways that this can go down, and I don't doubt for a second that it's not there isn't like a big plan for it.
All right. Juft has some speculation. It points out on page 11 of the April 23rd Shonen Jump on the very last panel. This is the during the kind of poem about Sanji and Pudding, the very last panel they included in a link. This is when they're wondering what happened with Straw Hat, and there's a little ship, a 09 ship, sailing away from Whole Cake Island with what appears to be sweat dripping off of it. My guess is that the ship is sailed by gangster Gastino, because Whole Cake Island is where we last saw him, and I can't think of anyone else who would be nervously sailing away from there. Wild speculation. We know that Vegapunk worked with Judge and a number of other scientists in the past and together discovered the bloodline elements. Among the uses for that is cloning, as we can see with Germa 66's clone army. We also know that Edward Weevil is dangerously strong and bears at least some passing resemblance to Whitebeard. Since in all likelihood Weevil is not Whitebeard's biological son, is it possible that he is actually a genetically modified clone of Whitebeard? Maybe Miss Buckin was a part of Vegapunk's team long ago, or maybe Vegapunk himself made Weevil. It's pretty out there, but I think it's possible.
I think Caesar is a very good guess there. I'm looking at this panel, and it does kind of stand out. Which chapter is this? The last chapter. So it's in the last issue. So 901, 2 was the last one. It's on page 10.
Yeah. This is a pretty good theory, but I don't believe it because everybody knows that Miss Bucking is Lola's mom.
Okay. Jesus Christ. I like the idea of Caesar because he is the only one at Whole Cake Island who we could have any interest in. And Sam likes that theory.
I mean, there are those little sweat drops that make you think that.
So wait, where
it's on page 10 in the last issue, so chapter 902.
Yeah.
It
does say 09 on it, so it could be, chapter title, The Ninth Person.
Oh, Caesar.
Yeah. You thought it would be Jim.
Steven's doing my job for me.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, is there any pun off of the number 9 that could hint who it is, Steven?
Oh, God. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I definitely.
Is it Ryu? Is 9 Ryu?
Q.
Well, I mean, Caesar is cute. Okay, let's move on.
All right, Zach is not cool anymore. We need to stop.
Sorry.
I was never cool. Okay.
I can vouch for that. I've known you for 13 years now?
Aw, that's mean.
Oh, thank you, Ed.
You're welcome, Zach.
All right. Our next question is from Nivers, who says, how many new princesses do you think we'll get from the Reverie and how many from Wano? Oh, sorry. This is Nivers. This is the Ice King. He's... How many new princesses?
1.5 billion princesses.
Wow.
Yeah.
15 gums.
I don't think Wano has a princess, right?
I don't know. That'd be really hard for Oda to resist, I feel like.
Well,
Hime-sama or something.
What was the I guess they would be like empresses. It wouldn't be like
no. The children of the emperor are princesses.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Anyway. It's a good guess. I think we'll see some.
Maybe Kaido's got some kids.
I don't want to see that. I'm sorry.
I mean, if we put up with Big Mom all these years.
Yeah. I don't want Big Dad. All right.
Guys, that's Capone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
the Big Father.
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. Look, Big Daddy. It's regular Daddy.
ATLA for Life has a question for me. Does the word king in Japanese hold any more reverence than the word emperor? Why is there one pirate king and 4, or now 5, emperors of the sea? Would an emperor be higher? Is this a language thing, or is this just how Oda decided it would go? I think this is just Oda deciding how it would go. I mean, what's really the difference between a king and an emperor? An emperor is like a king who's taking over other kingdoms, imperial conquest. Is that how we define?
There's already kind
emperor?
of like a mythological history behind the word pirate king, isn't there?
Well, there's also like being an emperor of the sea. It's part of the ocean. It's a place, but being the king of pirates means you're above all other pirates.
Pirates, yeah, that's true.
Which is still, I mean, even at this point, that still makes kind of no sense because pirates are kind of, the whole thing is free of, that kind of hierarchical structure. And I mean, we'll see what exactly that title entails, I'm sure, toward the end of the series, beyond just the most respected pirate. But I don't know. I'm curious. I think you can't really take these things like too literally, I think.
Yeah, and part of it too could just be like aesthetics, like maybe Oda came up with this term in Japanese yonko and really liked that. He's very particular about the ways that he like the sounds of words he comes up with, and so that that may have been part of that particular choice, or just not wanting to like get it, wanting a word that is not going to conflict with Pirate King. Like, you don't want it to be confusing, but also he doesn't necessarily want to do like, I don't know, Barons of the Sea or something where it's like, that doesn't necessarily, Emperor is like, that sounds like you really mean business. So, maybe that was the thought process behind it. Malcolm Lucker says, your color walk read through made me want to check them out myself. I saw on your website that there's a compendium for the first 3 coming out. Can you say a little more about the differences to the single issues, Stephen, maybe, especially if the page quality is different, like with the manga omnibus volumes? Okay, so I'm guessing from the way that this is worded that you've probably never seen the original publication of the color walks, but these are large books. They're like, I don't want to say newspaper size, but they are like larger than like a typical magazine size.
They're art books, basically. They're coffee table books.
Right. And
soft cover coffee table books, but the compendiums are hardcover, right?
Yes, the compendium I believe is supposed to be hardcover, and so yeah, the original the single color walks are fairly thin-ish, I would say, like 120 to 150 or so pages, something like that, 160 maybe. And the Japanese ones at least are glossy. I don't know. I don't know for sure what the pages are going to be like. I would assume they'll be glossy as well, but they're nice paper. And the compendium is just going to be a collection of the first 3. The first 2 were put out years ago in English by Viz, and they kind of let them lapse, and so this is kind of a resurgence, bringing them back in a bigger format or more page format.
And they're doing 1 a year, or is it 2 a year?
This one, the first one is for this year, and the second one I believe is going to be about a year later. That's the plan. Currently,
the first one's coming out in July. You can pre-order it on Amazon, or maybe you're on Right Stuff too.
Yeah. And I'm not sure. I don't believe, at least for the moment, I don't believe that there's any extra material that's going to be in the compendium that isn't in the 3 books themselves. I could be wrong about that, but at any rate, it's going to be a good value, I think.
Yeah.
And just to say, this is the only place you can get Color Walk 3 in English translated.
Yes. Yeah. And there are some interviews and stuff like as you heard me talking about last week.
And guys, right now it's $40 on Amazon, and that number's probably going to go down. And if you pre-order it, you get that price guarantee thing. So I jump on that.
They're typically like $20 is about 20 to 25. I think would be the individual price for single versions of the color walk. So
yeah, for some of the older ones, you can pick them up for under 20 if you're at a convention.
I mean, if you're a fan of Oda's art, the 2 things you should be getting are color walks and calendars, the manga calendars. And so I would highly suggest, if you don't have these, if you're a fan of Oda's art, especially this is from everything from East Blue to Skypiea. I know there's a lot of fans of that era who listen. Pick it up. Yeah.
Yeah, next is Rainer Not a Fox, who reminds us that Rainer was the person who had originally sent in the piece together question about the Hanafuda cards, the 4 lights that Shanks was holding in the cover, the chapter cover page, being a pun on the 4 emperors because it was the Shiko, meaning 4 lights. At the time, I also pointed out that the hand comes second only to the Goko, or the 5 lights, and it's funny that if the group gets renamed, the pun element is still maintained. So there you go. And points out that the specific cards are the Crane of January, Cherry Blossoms of March, the Full Moon of August, the Rain Man of November, and the Phoenix of December.
Is this a fun game to play, Hanafuda?
I have no idea.
All right.
I don't know. It looks fun in Summer Wars,
Yeah. Do we know if there's anything that beats that specific hand? Because I feel
I mean, just based on the comment here, it is second to the Goko. So I don't. Maybe
anything that beats.
Maybe that's in that category, or if that's like second only to.
Yeah,
the Goko,
I couldn't tell with how it was worded. That's why I'll research more about this because sounds interesting. And I'm always interested in Japanese culture. Hence the one of the reasons I do this podcast. Anyway, yes.
Real Pool says now that Fishman Island declared themselves to be Luffy's territory and the whole world is thinking less of Big Mom because she and her crew lost face in the papers despite not actually being defeated. I'll ask my question from last week again. How will Big Mom be reintroduced in the story? Will it be Elbaf brings Mother Carmel and Big Mom's memories back into picture, pun intended, also involving the new giant pirates? Will it be Fishman Island? Big Mom decides to destroy the Fishman Island to punish them for revolting and for the Tamate box explosion. And that might also incorporate the premonition about Luffy destroying the island. Or will it be Wano? She follows the Straw Hats to Wano and gets involved in the big war Oda has been promising. Even though her story arc concluding in Elbaf seems like the most logical step, the story spun by Big News Morgans has given her a big incentive to just chase Luffy to the ends of the earth. She might even think about holding Fishman Island hostage to force Luffy to come to her.
I think we're overestimating Big Mom's willingness to go places and move.
That
generally,
is, quite possible.
I mean, the part where she maybe like goes down to Fishman Island just to wreck up the place, as opposed to like chasing Luffy multiple places, that seems more likely. But if anything, I think it'll be Elbaf.
I mean, she normally like will send her like cronies and children to places she wants to blow up. Although Luffy's beaten her toughest kid, so. I don't want to think about this in terms of like, oh, our beef with Big Mom isn't over yet. Like for me, it's most, aside from like loose story threads, like I'm not chomping at the bit to see what happens next in the Luffy versus Big Mom beef.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get over that pretty quickly just once more exciting stuff happens in the few chapters ahead. So
yeah, I mean, like I could easily see her like getting absorbed into another story arc, like if there is like a war with like multiple emperors or something. But
right, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tarek has a question for me. What's the most accurate romanization of the Blackbeard Pirate's sniper's name? Now, I'm reading this. This is okay because he was in this week's chapter. Van Oga. So the katakana is Van Oga. Is it Van Ogre, O-G-R-E, which is what Viz uses? Van Augur, A-U-G-U-R, which is from Oda himself. Van Augur as an A-U-G-E-R, or something else. I don't know. I mean, accurate depends on your definition of what should be considered accuracy or not accuracy, and there are various criteria that you could use to argue that. I will say that just on a personal note, I'm not a big fan of the OGRE. Obviously, that's kind of what's been established for Viz, so that's what I'll continue to use. But I would not have chosen that if I had a choice about it. I don't know. I guess I just, in terms of aesthetics, I like AUGER, but that's just off the top of my head, I would say.
It's not really anything you could do to sort of maintain this. Isn't it a pun on like eyes, or part of it is supposed to mean eye?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I can't. Yeah, it's been so long since I've been wrapped up in that argument. Not since back in the Skypea days and such.
So the German word for eye is Auge.
Mm-hmm. How's that spelled?
It's A-U-G-E.
Okay. Yeah. So that seems like a good argument to go with G-E-R, but there's another question I think later on about spellings and such. So I'll talk a little bit more about it there. Super Dupe says, with Reverie and Wano right around the corner and Luffy barely being able to beat two of Big Mom's commanders, what kind of power up do you expect to see in order for him to beat Kaido? If I had to guess, I think he won't beat Kaido on his own. Oda hinted at a war that Kaido is preparing for, and I think that's going to be what the Straw Hats find themselves in the middle of during Wano. After the article that Morgans wrote, Luffy has a much larger target on him now than ever before. Big Mom, Shanks, and the world government might all converge on Wano just because Luffy is there. I think I remember reading a statement by either Oda or one of his editors stating that an arc coming in the future would make Marineford look like Barney and Friends. I'm sure that was not literal. Then again, Oda, unlike Rian Johnson, knows how to subvert reader expectations in satisfying ways. Whoa.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's have some words about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong.
Last Jedi is a good movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. Going on record.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know as far as how the Kaido thing is gonna play out. I guess, obviously we'll know more once the Reverie has happened and presumably we rejoin the crew going on to Wano, like how things might be framed. It could be the case that like Oda really wants to kind of rush a lot of the confrontation, like the big Emperor confrontation stuff, and maybe he does kind of exert this sort of black hole gravity, with pun intended, I guess, for Blackbeard, like bring all of them in for this big war thing. It's possible, but I maybe a little bit unlikely. So it seems to me more like it's probably going to be a Luffy himself or with a few other characters,
right,
being involved.
I mean, obviously there's that that legend, right, where it's like the monkey, the phoenix, the pheasant, and the monkey and the dog or something.
Yes, yeah. There's going to be a big, Momotaro and the Onigashima, the island of ogres, angle to Wano. I feel like. I don't know. It is an argument that we have brought up many times, just as far as how is Luffy going to be Kaido. Stupid Flanders says, I was thinking that it would be really fun for when you guys do one of your One Piece read-throughs for one of your chapters, for you to go into it blind, having no one read the chapter beforehand, aside from Steven, for obvious reasons. And this would be a cool live reaction from you guys. Steven could direct who reads what page since he knows what's going to happen. What do you think? I'm going to add, is this another stupid idea from Stupid Flanders? What do you guys think?
I think I've brought this idea up before, and it was like, nah, it doesn't.
It was just, we tried it once. It was just us
there.
Reading it quietly.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So maybe this idea of having Steven direct it could be better, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if we had to like read the words out of the dialogue as we're reading for the first time.
But I don't even think that would be that entertaining. I mean, we're not.
Yeah.
There's a reason we don't have live reactions on YouTube. It's
on YouTube, right?
None of us are those kind of people who could be so, energetic as we're reading it.
Dramatic. I also like the idea that we're reading this, and some of us have just read the chapter that morning or not that long before we record. Some of us, I'm not going to name names, but some of us just get it over with and read the thing when it comes out so that they can't get spoiled by other people. Some of us, like me, obviously read it well in advance, and so we have certain levels of preparedness before we actually get together and talk about it. And so we have jokes and observations and things, and I think that preparation shows in the finished product.
It gives us a lot of variety. I also am not able to express any emotion since I am a lawyer and not a human being. So that stops me from. Yeah.
That makes sense.
It does.
White Bear Beppo says, it's weird that Luffy and Sanji's bounty pictures didn't change. I was hoping for a badass Sanji face, but Oda will always troll Sanji. He already colored Sanji's raid suit blue in a color spread on chapter 872. However, I think it's a feint because it looks exactly like Niji's raid suit. I think the color scheme will be mainly black with streaks of blue or yellow because he's the black sheep of the Vinsmoke family.
But also, those were Mugiwara team raid suits, not German team.
That's literally the calendar page right now, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
I think Maddie, that's Raspberry on Twitter, has already posted her imagination of what this
banana colored raid suit.
Yeah, I think it would have to be banana colored.
It's called yellow. The color is yellow, guys. Come on,
guys.
Jesus.
I'm colorblind, Alex. Don't blame me.
Not all colors, though.
I can't see any colors at all. No, that's
just like Lucy.
Well, that's because you're a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean,
That's true.
I don't see color.
Yeah.
Black Northern says, yes, finally Kobe is officially shown back in the manga. It would be even better if Garp was also shown, but what can you do about it? So is it possible that perhaps Frankie could add some features to Sanji's raid suit? Food for thought. Yeah, I think we've decided that we like that idea. Get some, really make it Sanji's own rather than just, his cast-offs from the Vinsmokes.
Right.
Be cool. Cheer L231 says, can't wait to listen to your guys' thoughts on Chapter 903. Today I went through the One Piece wiki and looked through some of the cover story arcs. In Helmeppo's and Kobe's, does it actually start with a K, Steven? Well, I mean, it was written with a K on his sail in this chapter.
I know Steven doesn't have a V in it.
Yeah, that's true. Axan Morgan is taken onto Garp's ship as a prisoner, where he takes Helmeppo as a hostage and uses him to escape. Can you see Morgan getting back involved in the story somehow? And if so, how and where?
It'd be weird now that we have Morgans.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
wires crossed.
The ultimate battle. Yeah, you want to get your Morgans crossed.
Morgan.
Don't cross the Morgans.
Morganst. Yeah, I don't know. Certainly, it's like I wouldn't put it past him, but it doesn't strike me as kind of likely at this point. But we shall see. Liquid Gaimon says, I figured out how to convert berries to dollars. Based on Luffy's insane new bounty, I would guess that the One Piece world is suffering from severe economic inflation. Based on the rate of increase, I would equate this to the bounty increase in the world of Cowboy Bebop. I don't want to bore you with details, so I'll just say 1 berry equals 0.5 woolongs. If you then look at another comparable space currency, the Schmeckel, you'll find that 1 woolong equals 2.5 Schmeckels. Schmeckels sound whimsical like Disney bucks, so 1 Schmeckel equals 5 Disney bucks. Disney bucks were a failure, just like the Prussian franc, so 1 Disney buck equals 3 Prussian francs, which we can finally convert to $2. If you do the math, we learn that 1 berry equals $90. That's out of the way. I'll bet you guys 25 Schmeckels that Green Bull shows up next chapter.
Wow.
I don't know what currency exchange you have near you.
I don't know. I mean, the math checks out. That's those numbers.
You know what? I think we should ask Luffy if those numbers check out.
See, what I want to know is
135. I'm trying
Sam,
to figure out
Jesus
1.5 billion.
Well, can we convert those to length? Because I want to know how many merchant Gomus a Schmeckel is.
All right,
lay the bills out in a line. Measure them.
Stretches to the moon. Saybeard says, what is your prediction for how the raid suit will be utilized? I know there are a lot of bad theories out there, and regardless of how Sanji will eventually need a power-up before Luffy becomes Pirate King, will the raid suit transform noise be GG? Okay. All right. Very funny.
No, it'll be psst. It'll be a cigarette burning.
Yep.
That's what it'll sound like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll sound like he's stubbing out his butt.
I keep thinking about that, by the way, and I'm like, GG is something that, like, if One Piece was like a 1930s cartoon, Pudding would be like, oh, GG.
Wasn't that the voice you gave her?
No, that's the voice I gave Carrot.
Oh, yeah. Please
Everybody
keep doing
in the whole
that.
Gallon arc sounds like that, except for Big Mom, who sounds like Roseanne.
Yeah. I was going to make that joke when you did that voice, but...
It was very intentional.
Yes. Let's see. Prince of Assassins says, there was a scene in the last anime episode where they have Katakuri look at Luffy and then Bej, Jinbei, and Pedro as he runs at the group before suddenly changing course to Luffy while the groups look on. Just the way it's animated makes it look like Katakuri thinks he's fooling them by simply changing directions, and the group standing still makes it look like they think, oh, that's a special paramecia user, all right. Sometimes bad animation pays off comedically. And apparently there's a link to the frames. Although, now it's 4chan. I don't know. So yeah, was this something that you guys noticed? Is this going to pop up in the, have popped up in the anime recap?
The part that I'm going to point out in the anime recap is this sequence where basically I think Katakuri is just like morphing. He's like a mochi blob and then he like morphs back to regular shape. But because he's so big, it looks like he's like making himself extra big. I can't tell if he's making a giant version of himself or if that's his normal height.
Yeah, boy. Well, all right. Was too cool for school.
Hyperbola bully.
Yeah, hyperbola was looking at this tweet from Zach today. This was Zach's tweet about scanlationisms, because you were talking about the Yonko being
do you want me to read it?
Over. Sure, you can read it.
Yeah, sure. If you want. I said I'll mention it on the show, which I am right now. But my favorite part of this chapter is that it makes the word. Oh, I'm gonna make a pronunciation joke here, okay? Yonko over Emperor, that much more nonsensical and obsolete. Can we stop adapting scanlationisms now? We don't need Nakama or Shichibukai or Dogtooth or Shambles or Inuarashi or whatever we live in 2018. We know what Shueisha and Oda want now, and we have proper translations.
Okay, so that was your tweet here. And was too cool for school says, I agree with this statement personally. My work buddy took issue with it, though, for including Dogstorm / Inuarashi. His argument was that the fandom typically goes by characters' names as provided by the Romaji Oda provides. He says this is why it's stupid that people are still calling Katakuri Dogtooth. But for characters like Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, we have not seen how Oda chose their name. His argument stemmed from one of the data books having Oda officially spell Jinbei as Jimbe as such, and not Jinbei with a Bei and Jinbei, Jinbe, etc. Is he correct about this? And if yes, and one day down the road, Oda confirmed Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, would Viz end up reissuing these volumes or updating the digital volumes?
I think Rogue Town and Zolo are bigger offenders, and those haven't been
that's
changed.
True. Yeah. So first of all, unless it is something, and this is more typical with anime and with merchandising, so it's more from a production committee standpoint. Unless there's something where they hand you a style sheet and they say like, these are what we are using, you must use this, or there will be trouble. Aside from that, there isn't really a quote unquote official version of stuff in terms of like, okay, there actually is a right answer, but you have to figure it out beforehand, or you have to guess correctly, and then when it appears in the alphabet in some form or another, whether it's in the manga or on some Japanese merchandise or in a data book or whatever, then the answer has been revealed. It really doesn't work that way. And in terms of our creative process, at least, working on the manga, I cannot say what it's like for doing anime stuff. And while there are some discrepancies, I believe they're getting closer in terms of like, we provide the manga style sheet to Crunchyroll or Funimation or whoever is kind of taking the first crack at the anime. And I think that's why you see a lot of terms that are matched in the anime subs. But
I remember really, I thought it was really funny to see like Crunchyroll go from using, I think Usi was the bull in Dressrosa.
Right.
They started out as Usi, and then they changed it to your Musi after a certain point.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, like that's why. Well, yeah, that's you don't have to tell me, but yeah. So that I think that kind of misconstrues like how the localization process works, which is that Yes, it's true that if the author provides something, authorial intent goes a long way. But there isn't like some kind of play, it's not like this universe is already entirely created and Oda is just kind of doling out little bits of information. He's making up as he goes along, and he's making up these names in Japanese, and that's like that. If you want official spelling, like that's what they are. It's these names in katakana or whatever, the terminology that's in kanji, because that's the way it appears in its original form. And we are trying to to take what is there and to adapt it, whether that means aesthetically or for other considerations. There might be say this is just a completely hypothetical situation, but there might be some character whose a quote unquote official name in Japanese is actually like a super filthy slang term in English or something like that, and it's like, whoa, okay, we do not want to use this name. We got to figure out something about this because this is adding a really unintended layer to this character. And there are various reasons like that why you may want to do it differently. Or if like say, okay, this character is based off of something, but the way he spelled it in the alphabet doesn't really directly, like there's a different spelling that would make the joke immediately click for an English readership. And so concerns like that are very heavily kind of part of the process of figuring out. And sometimes it's just a coin flip where I have a couple different options that I could go with, and I just pick the one that I think sounds best. And if he does later provide an official spelling, it might be something that I'm like, okay, that's totally cool. I can work with that. I don't mind switching over to that if it's not too late, if it's within a reasonable time frame. And sometimes I might say like, actually, I'm sticking to my guns. I think this way that we have it represented in the Viz version already is the best choice for this market, for this edition of the material. And that's something that to a certain extent, like the Japanese companies are fine with as well. You look at the different ways that certain characters, like main characters, are spelled in other countries. Like, in Germany, Luffy is Rufy with an R, and like Usopp is Lysop because they wanted to literally put the lie thing in his name, and stuff like that. And like that wasn't like, oh my God, you're breaking the rules of the laws of the universe. You can't do that. It was fine, and that's kind of an accepted thing. I think a lot of Japanese authors like realize that, hey, I make my story for the Japanese market, and I'm going to trust that the people in other markets are making the right decisions for their version. They would know who they're selling it to better than I do. And so it's really not as simple as all of that. And it's easy to lose sight of that because of things like wikis where you collect all this information, so you have to tie all this information together and get the perfect representation. But it's kind of a thing where in the real world it doesn't always work that way.
And we trust Steven more than we trust scan leaders by a wide margin. Yeah, we do here.
And to be fair, like Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, I don't want to completely go over all that again, but that was a decision that I made because I thought, okay, part of this joke is that it's kind of describing what they are, and the names are, unlike some other characters who have very Japanese sounding names. This is, it really visually ties into what you're seeing, and they're also super long, and you wouldn't necessarily put that together. And we don't really do notes. We don't do translators notes in Viz. Like the idea is to be as upfront as possible. Like you should be able to get the joke to the best of your ability.
And what was Katakuri, the scan leader, dog tooth,
yeah.
Which makes no sense and makes no sense. Yeah.
So like I don't necessarily begrudge people for wanting Arashi or Nekomamushi or preferring them. Like that's your choice. That's an aesthetic choice. You may like them more, and I can't say that you're wrong for not liking Dogstorm or Cat Viper. All I can do is just kind of explain my reasoning, and hopefully that will make sense to you guys. So there you go. Almost done, I promise. For Reddit here, Maxer Dexter says, so now is it okay? This is in terms of highest bounties. Now is it Dragon or Roger, most wanted man in the Pirate King, then Whitebeard, closest man to the One Piece, then the actual 4 emperors, then Luffy in highest bounties ever. Luffy might have the 8th highest bounty ever right now. I doubt that Marco, Jozu, King, or Queen are that much higher than Katakuri and Jack.
Oh, interesting.
I mean,
think it's interesting that he's bringing up King and Queen in addition to Jack.
What about Sabo's bounty? What's Sabo's bounty again?
It's like 600 or something.
It was 602.
I think. I mean, we also haven't met underlings.
Right.
I mean, Jack is one of many guys, but then again, Katakuri had a 1 billion berry bounty, and he's not like a guy like Jack, but he's still an underling. Like he doesn't have like a code name. I'm assuming Jack is a code name.
And Marco probably has a pretty damn high bounty.
What if Yasop has like a 3 billion berry bounty?
That'd be insane.
Pretty awesome.
I feel like they'll start getting exponentially larger for some of these too. Like they're going to start getting absurd at this point. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 10 billion, at the top, some insane number.
I'm pretty amazed that the rest of the cruise hasn't gone up yet. If they have an emperor now, maybe that's just
we're not going to see them for a little while.
It's just a matter of time.
Right. Yeah. Last question from Reddit. A quick password. I'm just going to sum it up here about the Vinsmoke drama. I know a lot of people here find them the least interesting part of Whole Cake, but I think it'd be worse if we just never saw them again. When do you think they'll come back?
I'm hoping they get at least like talked about at the Reverie.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the kind of the full story of Germa and the Vinsmokes, like there's a lot that's like there's a lot of mystery that's been teased. And there's a lot of opportunity to really like make their role in Whole Cake Island interesting, more than just like kind of begrudged allies passing through. There's definitely like an arc in play of like, we might see Germa rise to power again someday. Maybe not in Judge's hands, or maybe not getting there the way Judge thought he had to get there. But I don't know. There's too much. That's too big of a part of Whole Cake Island for me to think that that's all there is actually to it. And there's so much opportunity for it to come up soon.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now. And I'm like, I can't see a logical entry point for them in the future other than regarding the Reverie, specifically because they were that detail was thrown out, that they were considered part of the world government during the Whole Cake Island arc. So,
and like even if they can't make it to Marie Joie, maybe there could be there's so much you could do with just like a person at the Reverie being like, oh, Germa, did you know blah 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 about them?
Yeah,
I could see maybe down the road with Vegapunk. I could see
that's true.
Yeah, Vegapunk.
I could see Judge wanting to up his technology after having people try to kill him and almost succeed. So I could see them coming back into play then, but in the near term, probably just a mention at the Reverie.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for Reddit?
That is it for Reddit.
Wow. Okay.
Let's do a lightning round of
Piece the Tweet.
Yeah, let's go through these quick because.
And to be fair, I'm just gonna read the questions from the people who sent them in after the chapter release today. Just cut down on.
There's a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. First one comes from friend of the show, Joe on Bulba of an outer file. I would have put another favorite character of mine in the Rocky Port incident, but still isn't saying what happened. I want to cry.
The noodle incident, spaghetti incident, yeah.
Master Yoshi 88 says, should we call Luffy Captain Luffy or Emperor Luffy from now on?
Well, what are we doing on this podcast? What's our?
It's just Luffy.
I think
just Luffy.
Luffy.
Yeah. No, he's
he can be a captain and an emperor.
What was he? Monkey?
Yeah,
Monkey.
Monkey.
Monkey D. Luffy.
We're calling him Monkey.
That's the compromise. He's an emperor now, but
his name is now
only know him
Monkey.
as Monkey.
That was the guy who played bass in Korn, right? Monkey.
Quite a pull.
Maybe. Man. Next one comes from. Well, okay. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to get their question read because a lot of this is stuff we've gone over. But Cadet Hat Sean says, "My headcanon voice for Big News Morgans is Scratch from The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. His distinctive laugh basically beats Scratch's laugh."
What is that voice?
It sort of sounds like this.
Wow.
That sounds about right.
Okay. Operation Druid asks, since Whole Cake Island is done with now, if you could replace a single character with a Simpsons character, who would it be? I would replace Loopy with Homer Simpson since he always goes off track but manages to get the job done. I don't know about that.
I don't know. Whew.
Any character in Whole Cake with a Simpsons character?
Yeah.
I would replace Montador with Lionel Hutz. A severely competent character with a severely incompetent character.
Yeah,
really funny.
Pretty good.
I would replace. I don't know. I would replace Kingbound with the Bee-Man. Just hanging out in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how they never take it past like first grade level Spanish on The Simpsons.
Oh, you know what? I would replace Opera with Wiggum. Or I just want to see Wiggum as Opera. Like I feel like that's such a.
I feel like they could both like twiddle their fingers, and it would be perfect. Okay. Right,
this bird's gonna fly.
Used to a star Diwa. Gonna check Greek Island.
Lightning round.
Zach, President Big Mom had this roleplay account that we inspired says, despite the constant negative press, young Kofifi.
Oh
my god.
That's both funny and sad at the same time.
Oh man, that's like a frozen burrito, but
thawed burrito.
Is there anything more distressing than the phrase role-playing account we inspired?
A little bit.
We love you.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
How else we can get through the next, maybe
couple weeks.
Ghost Starch says, Germa wanted to use Big Mom's flag to demoralize their enemies in the North Blue. Do you think they will use Luffy's flag to do the same? That seems like
Germa just starts using Luffy's flag when he's definitely not giving them permission for it.
It's going to happen a lot.
Precedent for that.
Yeah. How's he going to get out to the North Blue? How's he going to find out?
What's next?
Intab F says, Sanji's bounty changed back to dead or alive. Does this mean the Vinsmokes are no longer allowed at Reverie since it's worldwide news that they worked under Luffy during the last arc, which is actually fake news? Should we start calling him fake news more?
I thought we already were. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good note there that we did that we missed. Go ahead.
Next one comes from, it's actually a kind of a discussion I wanted to have. Logic Wizard says, what do you think the requirements for Emperor status are? Is it just notoriety, or is there something more? I think being able to take on an Emperor and not die seems to be the criteria.
That's
that plus, other things. But yeah, I think that
people who are already famous going to do that, only someone who's obscenely strong would not die.
Well, like Ed, you can't go over to Big Mom, poke her, and then run, and then somehow escape. I don't know. And
so, I think it's like anybody who dares challenge another emperor. Almost, I keep thinking that, but then I always think back to Moria talking about how he tried challenging Kaido and then got owned. So,
I mean, the newspaper says that his Grand Fleet is a big part of it.
Right. Yeah. The Grand Fleet, the fact that he commanded these three great groups under, immediately. Like these
leadership. Yeah. Leadership.
Yeah, like the Sun Pirates, the Fire Tank Pirates, and Germa. Like these are all like big names. These are huge names. Some of them. So I feel like that's probably like the biggest deal.
Plus Orlumbus,
political influence.
They specifically not Orlumbus. The Yanta Maria. Yeah, that is Orlumbus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a fleet of 8,000 ships. Also whatever it was.
About that, our very own Brian Newton sends in a question. Well, not really a question, more of a comment. Says, something tells me Orlumbus's cover story isn't going to end well for his crew. They can't all be happy endings.
None of these have had endings.
I guess that's true.
Listen, you got to crack a few eggs, okay?
Oh, God.
That was very good, Jill. I liked that one.
Oh,
Thanks.
as a lawyer, I hate humor.
Next one comes from Mr. Sense the OG says, do you think creating a 5th slot for Emperor Luffy is some sort of trap or setup by the government? Or perhaps a way to try and use the Straw Hat for a bigger purpose? But
guys, let's not overthink this.
It's just what Morgan said. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
it's just sort of a consensus.
I know Alex has answers for the next question, so we should get to that.
Yes. Our very own Sai asks, if you had to name each arc after a different kind of taco, what would it be?
Yes, I saw this earlier, and I prepared answers for every arc.
All right.
So I'll be back in 20 minutes.
No. Don't worry. I have them all here in this doc. Jesus.
Google
I skipped Romance Dawn, but I'm
starting.
Are you
serious?
Oh, yeah. So, Orange Town, the buggy arc, dog food because of Shushu, like a dog food taco. These get stupid. Syrup Village, a cat food taco, because of the Kuroneko Pirates.
Oh, here we go.
The Baratier arc, carnitas because of the character Carne.
Nice.
The Arlong arc, I wrote ham melon taco because that's what Luffy likes to eat at the end of that arc. For Logue Town, smoked brisket because Smoker is introduced. For Whiskey Peak, a nopales taco. Nopales is cactus.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. God, this was one of the stupidest ones. Little Garden. God, Little Garden should have been like a garden burger taco or something, but instead I wrote taco-shaped candle. Drum Island, mushroom taco. Alabasta al pastor. Also, it's my favorite taco. For the Skypea arc, I'm including Giant there too because fuck it. Nacho cheese because it's golden. Long Ring Longland, a taquito.
Oh my god.
For Water 7, Water 7 is a 7-layer taco. And or a taco that you dropped in the water and have to eat it.
Oh god.
For NES Lobby, I couldn't think of one, so I'm including it in Water 7. For Thriller Bark, a reheated taco. It's like a zombie. You're bringing it back to life.
NES Lobby would one that just stays in the sun for way too long.
There you go. God. For Shabandi, it's soap shaped like a taco. For Amazon Lily, a snake meat taco. For Impel Down, a grade F prison meat taco. For Marineford, a barbacoa taco because of Barba Blanca, aka Whitebeard.
Okay.
Sai already included this one, a fish taco for Fishman Island. For Punk Hazard, a taco that it's a frozen taco that you microwave halfway through, so it's frozen on the inside but warm on the outside. For Dressrosa, a patatas bravas taco. For Zoe, I was thinking like a gamey sort of meat, so I said goat meat taco. And the obvious answer for Whole Cake Island is a Choco taco.
Yes, of course. Okay.
And
The
for the
tacos of
Reverie?
One Piece. Eat them all.
Wow. Jill is writing
Wait, isn't
very
there-
lewd descriptions for Amazon
I
Lily.
didn't say it, okay? I thought about it and I didn't say it.
What about the king?
What?
Isn't there like a
Oh.
king taco? Isn't there something like that for the Reverie? Anyway.
The Reverie could be like an everything in the fridge taco. I don't know. I thought about doing that for Marineford, but I thought of Barba Blanca, and I was like, no.
Okay.
All right, next one comes. Let's see. Next one comes from Isoto127, who says, "I really feel like Oda is going to troll Sanji next chapter, where they show that Zoro's and the rest their bounty also went up like in Dressrosa."
I feel like this is one of those rare instances where like Vegeta would get stronger than Goku for like half an arc.
Yep, that's right.
Huntress fan asks, "So when will Buggy become the 6th Emperor?"
That's a good question.
Yeah.
He'll find a way to somehow become the first emperor.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions about the raid suit, but one of the things I saw that I did want to mention was that that's Raspberry, the artist on Twitter, says it's like one of those fake cans of nuts that's filled with springy snakes.
It's not even real.
Nietzsche would 100% do that. That's the thing.
It's a good Paul F. Tompkins bit too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, and one final one. Here's a crackpot theory from Dark Leviathan. It says Vegapunk is Sora's father, henceforth the connection with Judge. I also think the swirly eyebrows belong to Vegapunk and not Judge.
Whoa, that's a cool
That's
theory.
good.
I like
That
that.
is good. Yeah.
So it's like a recessive gene.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's how that works.
Maybe. I mean, like, I hesitate to think that like it'll be another Sanji centric arc when Vegapunk shows up, but
it would explain why Sora was the hero, right? Because
Grandpa Vegapunk.
Yeah, Vegapunk, and Vegapunk's in the newspaper for some reason in this chapter.
Right.
So.
That's true.
Okay, so that's gonna do it for a very lengthy piece together segment. Why don't we round off?
Sure.
Okay.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 518 for May 7th, 2018. Thank you all for coming on the show this week. Please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. If you haven't, I know I said I'd be releasing a bunch of stuff, but it's been somewhat chaotic in my personal life. But those will be out soon, I promise. I have a lot of backlogged exclusive episodes for you, so hopefully those will be out this week or next week. So how could the good people find all of you? Let's start with Kelly.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Karuri.
Jill.
You can find me at Twitter at PyroTestUnlock.
Steven.
Follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus.
Alex.
Follow me on Twitter at Dude! And listen to Tohoyaro, the monthly Japanese movie club podcast that I do with Joey Weiser, friend of the show, and often comer honor of the show, and Scott Dryman. This month's episode is the Jitageki meets Kaiju favorite, Daimajin. And also, as we mentioned at the top of the show, keep a lookout for the episode of Conversation Genesis Evangelion that Ed and I are on the Cartoons 101 Patreon.
I think they just had the episode with episode 12 came out today, so probably in 2 weeks our episode will be out.
Cool.
Yeah, depending on when he decides to release them.
I'm sure we'll mention it again on this show if anyone forgets. Ed, how could the good people out there contact us?
Well, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. One Piece. The podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. OnePiecePodcast at gmail.com is our email address. One Piece Podcast, that's all one word, is our Skype name. You can support us, again, Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Send us some piece together on Reddit, reddit.com/r/OnePiecePodcast. Subscribe on SoundCloud. You can subscribe on Google Play. Subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, or call us on our phone number. Zach?
That phone number is 347-497-MAJI. That phone number is 347-497-6254. Call anytime. With your questions, comments, theories, and Pocky Hockey. Thank you guys for coming on the show. We're going to do a very quick round of trivia since we spoke a lot this week.
Yes. And I'm here too.
Oh, Sam.
Damn it!
That's the second time that's happened.
God.
Sam, how can people find you? I'm just fun with it. I'm not used to 7 people. Go ahead, Sam.
They can find me on Twitter at Lucky Chainsaw. They can find me on the One Piece podcast every week doing the anime recaps, and they can find me on AnimeNewsNetwork.com doing the daily streaming reviews for One Piece, My Hero Academia, and Black Clover.
Sam, speak up next time. Yell at me. Don't be afraid. I'm a lawyer. I have no soul. So let's do some.
One guy will send more.
Let's do some trivia, and because I feel extremely bad that I forgot Sam, I'm going to give Sam the easiest question to start out with. So we're celebrating bounties this week because that's what we do.
Oh, no.
No, it's good. You don't have to know any numbers, but if you know a number, you'll get an extra point. So that's how
I feel like there was a time where I would have been really good at that.
Yeah, so...
But it's probably not now.
So here we go. Let's do this one by one. So the goal of the game, I'm going to say a record bounty in an individual category. You just have to name the character. You get an extra point if you name the bounty. Okay, got it? The order is going to be Sam, Stephen, Kelly, Jill, Alex, and Ed. So that means if the person does not get it, we'll go to that next person. And if none of you get it, none of you get the point. There's not that many, so this should go relatively quick. Sam, you get the first one. Who has the highest active bounty?
That would be Mr. Monkey D. Luffy.
And how much is it?
1.5 billion.
There you go. See 2 points right there.
Wow, they're all going to be that easy, huh?
No, they're not.
Wow.
Steven.
Oh man, next week I need to make you feel really sorry for me, so you give me a little easy one too.
That's how that works. That's how that works. Steven, the highest former 7 warlord bounty goes to whom?
Oh man.
3 seconds.
I don't know. Jinbei? Honestly, I do not know.
It's not Jinbei, so Kelly.
Doflamingo?
Nope. Jill. 3 seconds. Name a warlord.
Law? Fuck it.
Alex.
Oh, did she say? Which one did she say?
She said law.
Oh, and that wasn't correct?
No.
Oh, former warlord?
I get...
Warlord's former
someone
bounty.
who's been a
Former
warlord.
bounty.
Former bounty. So not current bounty. Not current bounty. That would be law.
Jesus.
You are correct. But
Oh,
that would,
I see. I thought you meant former warlords. I'm like, which warlords aren't left? Is it
Just say it. Say something.
Hancock?
Ed.
Bartholomew Kuma.
Sam.
Evil.
Yeah. Can you name how much? Can you name how much it is?
Is it 480 million?
Yes, Sam.
I
Owning
get
this.
that still exists basically every week.
All
Did we
right.
just like all get wiped out?
There's only a few more.
Sam win.
Steven, highest starting bounty that we know of.
Starting bounty?
Yeah.
That's
That's my dog who is not approving your answer.
That's my horse.
I mean, I guess I'll just say Katakuri.
I guess we don't know if that's his starting bounty.
Give it back.
Okay. Do you want to just call this for Sam then?
Yay!
I know the logic of the
What? Wait, what was the answer that you were looking
The
for?
answer to that was Fisher Tiger.
What? What's his?
230 million, according to One Piece Wiki.
Well, that might have been true at the time. Wasn't that like 20 years ago?
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
that's still true.
Yeah.
Was
there any other questions that you had?
Okay,
The question
fine.
means like
I'll
people
do one more, Kelly.
Okay.
Lowest active bounty.
Chopper?
Yep. Do you know how much?
50?
Nope.
No? That was his original one, right?
It's 100. Yeah.
It's 100 now.
Yeah.
So good.
I'll do one more. Jill. Lowest former bounty for a warlord. Warlord. So.
Buggy?
Yep. How much?
I don't know.
Oh, I know that one.
How much, Alex?
It's 35 million.
Nope. Anyone know this?
Wasn't it 5 million?
15,
Very
15.
Yeah.
Sam obviously wins.
It wouldn't have been higher than Luffy's first bounty.
That's going to do it for the show today. Thank you all for coming on. Next week, we are going through chapter 904 and a new anime episode also. So, for the One Piece podcast, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
My name is Alex.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye. You guys, the will of McDLT.
Keep the hot. Keep the
Hot
cool.
side hot and the cool side cool.
That'd be Punk Hazard.
Exactly.